What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I dropped 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm going to keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go!
Let's go is right. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. You are watching 40 Days, 40 Nights with your boy EJ Stewart. Live here on YouTube, live on Instagram, and live on X. Apologies, I know there was a little of a false start. I realized that there was one step I needed to get to make sure Instagram live was right, and I was like, oh, should I just do the show and not be on Instagram live? But nah, not after what happened this morning with the internet going out. I didn't want to cheap anybody out on watching this show, so I wanted to make sure that we got this thing going and we got to let the people know that we're live, man. We're ready to go. We're ready to get it going. Apologies again. I know there's a little bit of a false start, so you're probably, oh, where'd the show go? We're fine. We're doing the show live again, as we did earlier in the day. We have, of course, a 6 p.m. show that we're doing right now. Apologies for the delay again because of that little false start. And now, of course, we have the 8 a.m. show that we did earlier this morning. That episode is podcasted up already wherever you get your podcast. We had Andrew Bogus on earlier in today. So if you're a fan of Maggie and Perloff show and you're a fan of what we did as a team, Bogues joined the fray. It's a very fun conversation talking about what he's been up to since ISN, some of the other characters you may be familiar with and what they're up to as well, like a Peter Bellotti, because since he hasn't been on Maggie Perloff show in a while, but of course he was still working at Infinity Sports Network and all the stories with Pete. So that was a load of fun, man. It was great to have Bogus on, and you know he's already made a bet that he's willing to come back. So I don't think that'll be the last you'll see of Andrew Bogus here on 40 Days and 40 Nights. No guests tonight, but we're going to have a great show because we got a lot to get to, and I got a lot to get off my chest, to be honest. This was a good day of information. I think a good mix. This is going to be kind of your 50% sports, 50% superhero stuff today because we got some big stuff regarding some superhero stuff I want to get to earlier in the day. I wanted to talk about Spider-Man the major way. There's a couple of different Spider-Man things we got to get to. Number one, we got to talk about this Spider-Noir trailer that came out from Prime Video. They had announced yesterday that they're going to be dropping the trailer today. They've given out some images, and they've, of course, done some interviews and promo for this show. This is the show that's going to be starring Nicolas Cage as Ben Reilly, not Peter Parker, but Ben Reilly. Of course, Nicolas Cage voiced the Peter Parker character from Into the Spider-Verse in both Spider-Verse movies where he was playing that Spider-Man Noir character. He's now bringing back to live action, playing the role, but in a slightly different twist. So we gotta get to we're gonna talk about the trailer. We're gonna talk about all the things we saw from this. I really like what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing about this show. So I'm excited to talk about that. I also want to talk about some Spider-Man stuff regarding some rumors we're hearing about what we could see in Spider-Man Brave New World, Brand New Day. I'm sorry, not Brave New World. That was Captain America. Spider-Man Brand New Day later this year. That's gonna happen over the summer. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about some Daredevil stuff for season 3. But on the sports side, we got plenty of hoops to talk. Knicks make a fairly significant move where Jeremy Sochan, a former first-round pick, he comes loose on the scrap heap, and the Knicks right there to scoop him up. So Jeremy Sochan now will be a New York Knick after he was bought out by the San Antonio Spurs. What does that mean for the team? We'll discuss that. We'll also discuss a NBA All-Star, former All-Star, who is now being shut down, and the conversation that it is stemming and creating for the situation regarding, of course, load management and tanking. Jaren Jackson, who just got to the Utah Jazz, was playing basketball, looked fine, but the Jazz, of course, in a position where they don't want to win games, have been putting him on a quote-unquote minutes restriction because of a health issue, and they still win these games, even though he was only playing 3 quarters, literally playing 3 quarters of a game and then be pulled out for quote-unquote minutes restriction. And now they're like, well, we won too much, so you know what, you sit down. You're done for the year. Surgery on a growth on his knee that he says is not giving him pain, but says that they need to do it now or else it could grow into something worse. So Jaren Jackson Jr., who they just traded for in the trade deadline for a team that is trying to win next year, but is very interested in making sure they get a high draft pick this year, is now shutting down one of their best players. So I have a solution I believe that is pretty simple it makes this easy for the NBA draft. I don't think this is a rocket science. I don't think this is going to be a super hard thing to figure out. I've seen folks say you got to get rid of the draft. I don't think that's necessarily necessary. And I also think that the draft, when done correctly, if Adam Silver doesn't get in the way of the NBA draft and what it does for the league and the promo that it brings to the league, I think it still is very useful and very valuable tool as a marketing tool for the NBA. So I think that's silly to say get rid of the NBA draft. I understand the idea that the players would love that and the players would have more mobility, and I get player rights, and that's another thing. But in terms of tanking, I don't think the draft, getting rid of the draft, is the only silver bullet you got, and it's the most drastic answer. I have another answer. I think that's pretty simple. It is a little radical, but I don't think it's that big a deal at this point. They do have to fix this, though, because this is getting ridiculous where the tanking has gotten completely out of control. So we'll talk about what's going on with Jaren Jackson and the tanking. And I mentioned it earlier, and more people are commenting about it. And it's a commentary that's really, it's picked up steam. And whenever you bring in sensibilities about culture, ethnicity, race in sports, it's gonna pop off. So Kevin Durant, I mentioned earlier, we didn't get to it because I was doing, obviously, the show with Bogus. I wanted to make sure that Bogus, we got as much time as we got, even though we had some of the delays with some of the internet issues. Kevin Durant made some comments about the NBA All-Star Game. He was asked a simple question about, hey, how are you guys going to compete this year? And it was a question I thought that, and I don't think Kevin Durant was being like a jerk or anything. I know he sometimes can be. This was not that at all. This was him just giving an honest answer. And he even told the reporter, hey, I'm not dissing you or saying you're the reason for this. I'm just answering the question. But he gave a thoughtful answer that kind of rejected the notion that it was his responsibility and the American players' responsibility to liven up the competitive nature of the All-Star game and really question why the Luka Doncic's and the Nikola Jokic's of the world aren't getting the same criticism and questions about the lack of competitiveness in the All-Star game. I think they're thoughtful questions. I think that there's plenty of great conversation that this is stemming from, and I'm all here for this conversation. I think there's some complications to this, not at all absolving those guys. He's 100% right. Those guys have been loafing it in these games. They've been terrible to watch in these games. But there's other details to this that don't make it quite so simple to say that, hey, don't look at me, look at those guys. So I want to talk about all that. And again, we'll have a fun show today. I'm going to make sure I tweet this out because I'm so tired of this damn software. When I used to do the software, I post out, I just hit the button, go live, and then I'm live, and it's all good. And I get a post saying, hey, watch 40 Days and 40 Nights, and we can talk about it. But now it does this weird thing where it goes live, but it doesn't actually say that I'm live. There's no post showing that I'm live. So if you don't see the post, you don't really know that I'm live. It's not on the timeline. So I'm quickly just going to post this real quick. Let's see, night 24 underway. Check it out as we discuss the Knicks adding Jeremy Sochan, KD's comments on the All-Star. I gotta do this live while I'm also trying to make sure I don't have any typos here. This is a great thing also to remind you that you guys, of course, can follow me on XEJ_Stu, where I am streaming live. It's hard to see right now. You have to go to my page and literally click on my profile picture to actually see this. I think that's how you spell competitiveness. Hopefully that's not a typo. Shout out to people in the chat. We got some people in the chat. Shout out to T3 and D. Great show yesterday with Keith McPherson. Yo, shout out. Thank you for checking it out, man. Shout out to Keith McPherson. He's the man. I was talking to my guy, Anthony Gallo from WFAN. And Gallo, if anybody who knows me at the Fan, Gallo is one of my closest friends at the Fan. He was the first, him, and shout out to Big Zoo. I want to get Big Zoo on here too. Eddie Arzuman, who I know announced he left WFN earlier in the year, and he's been doing awesome stuff on TikTok. He has a wrestling podcast. He's the man. If you listen to the Fan, you heard from him. But both of those two guys around the same time. And the Fan's a great place, and Infinity, of course, was a great place. But I come in, new guy. I don't know anybody, and I'm kind of. It's hard to say that, you do this and you're reserved, but I'll be honest, I am kind of a reserved guy. I don't come in and just make myself the loudest person in the room, especially coming into a new environment where I understand that it can be a very competitive environment. Though I think everyone there does a great job of supporting each other. But I didn't want to come in and just, yo, I'm EJ, what's up, yo, where's the party at? I wasn't like that. So I was a little reserved, and people were nice to me, and they showed me the ropes and trained me everything, but I kind of kept to myself. I felt like Anthony Gallo and Big Zoo, Eddie Arzuman, were the first guys I felt like to really like say, yo, you're part of us, like asking what I'm about. And me and Big Ed, we go to the same high school. We went to the same high school. He was there. I think he went there literally the year I graduated. But with those guys, along with Keith McPherson, in terms of the WFAN side of it, like they were amazing. And I was talking to Gallo today about how the Keith McPherson thing was awesome, and I got to get him on now too. And all three of those guys were instrumental, I think, in making me feel really welcome at WFAN. So I'm really appreciative that you guys enjoyed the Keith McPherson show. I was talking to Andrew Kaplan, of course, the digital head one of the digital heads over at WFAN, and formerly with, of course, us with Infinity Sports Network and Maggie and Perloff show. And I was talking about how Keith McPherson, man, he brought the energy, man. And I'm doing these 2 days, so I feel like my energy is always good, but you see Keith McPherson, you see his charisma, you see his energy. Sometimes I'm like, oh, okay, I got to match this guy's energy. It's hard to do it. He's talking and he's going through all these different stories. He told some stories I don't think anyone's ever heard about the stuff with him and John Heyman and what happened afterwards. So if you did not catch that, multiple ways to catch that. Of course, you can go to our podcast channel, New Generation Podcast Network, and catch that interview with me and Keith McPherson. You can, of course, and not just, obviously, he didn't just flame John Heyman for 50 minutes. He was there for a while, and we talked a lot of Yankees. So if you're big into Yankee talk, it's still killing me that for some reason in my head I called George Lombard, I lumped him in as one of the young outfielders when, of course, he's a shortstop. That's going to, as a person who wants to get everything right, that drives me insane. That's still driving me insane. But no, that was a great interview, and he had a great outlook on the Yankees this season. So check that out. Again, Bogish was on this morning. That was an awesome interview. Andrew Perloff was on Tuesday. All that stuff is on our podcast channel. All that stuff is also on our YouTube channel, New Generation Media. All that stuff gets put in on a playlist and a podcast list, so you can check that out quite simply. And let me just post this real quick. This Twitter twin, because this Elon Musk and his nonsense. I'm sorry, man. I don't know if I say that while I'm live. But Kevin Caveri was. Oh, we got those ones and Spider-Man Noir trailer. Okay, Spider. Meanwhile, hit me some comments. You want to get in the comment section? Let me know what you want to talk about. I can get to that stuff before I even get to the stuff I want to get on my show. And let's see, and the Spider-Noir trailer. And the Spider-Noir trailer. All right, yeah. There you go. And post that, baby. Let's go. All right, we're rocking now. We're ready to move. We got T3D also saying here that he thinks Scott Farrell as a guest. I love Scott Farrell, man. Scotty, I wasn't at Infinity or at CBS when Scott was there. It was really cool that one of those shows over the holidays that Scott came and did kind of a random WFAN. He did a couple of shows. He did a random WFAN one. He made it a few. And he did the last show on Infinity Sports Network, which is super dope considering he was the first person on Infinity Sports Network. And Scotty, super nice guy. I was so mad because I got there. I wasn't running late, but I kind of timed it to where I kind of got there kind of right before my show, like maybe 20 minutes before. So they didn't know if I was in a snowstorm, because I was at night where it was like crazy snowstorm. They didn't know if I was in a snowstorm, if I was going to make it in on time, and I was totally on time. There was no issue. But it was funny because, I'm a big Miami Hurricanes fan. Scotty Farrell reps the Hurricanes. He's wearing his Hurricanes shirt. I didn't have my Hurricane shirt on, but we're getting ready for the National Championship game. And I've watched Scotty's work and listened to his work for a while now. So it was cool to dap him up right as I'm going into the booth to get ready to do my show. But, we didn't get to talk long, but it was just a small thing. Yo, Hurricanes, yo, you made it here. And I've been roasting you for the last couple hours. So it was a lot of fun. So shout out to Scotty Farrell. Hey, listen, Scotty Farrell wants to come on and do this. Open invitation for him, too. We're limited days, but we still got plenty of open slots when it comes to guests. So if Scotty wants to come on, he's good. I mentioned Anthony Gallo. I told him it looks like he's going to try to lock in and get him on. He's one of the people I've definitely wanted to get onto this thing. So we got a lot of great guests coming up. There are people already booked for next week that I'm already really excited about. So we're keeping this thing rocking, man. 40 days, 40 nights. Now streaming live on X. I was on X before, but now you guys should see me on X because now it's actually posting to my account. I got to make sure next time I do that, I'm not going to actually hit my intro music until I put that tweet out when I see that I'm live. But this is going to be a fun show, man. I got a lot to get to. Thanks for rocking with me. Of course, if you like this show, do me a favor. Many things you can do, and most of you guys comment section is already hot, so I love that. Multiple things you can do to support the channel. Number one, getting in the comment section, being active in the comment section. I like to bring up comments and respond to you guys live on the air, so that's a fun thing to do. So you have a question, you want to bring something to the table, bring it, and I'll answer this live right here. Any questions you want, sports related, non-related, whatever you want, throw it in the comment section and see what happens, and I'm all good. Also, subscribing to the channel, New Generation Media on YouTube. Even if you're watching primarily on Instagram, I know there are folks that watch us primarily on Instagram. That's why we had our false start. Because I was like, do I want to screw over my Instagram audience and not go live, even though I'm technically live right now, and just kill this one and restart? I was like, I don't want to screw it over. I want to restart this thing and do it right. So it took me another 5-10 minutes to just get to restart everything that I had going. Because this is one little step you got to do. If you do everything right, one small little step. If you forget to do that thing, Instagram just doesn't even go. So it was like I had to kind of sat there for like a minute making the decision, like, should I turn it off? Should I turn it on? And I turned it off, and then I'm going to restart this thing. But Instagram, obviously, if you're watching on Instagram, you're watching on X, shout out to you. And, of course, follow me on X, EJ_Stewart. Follow me on Instagram, ActionEJ. But supporting the channel on YouTube, even if that's not where you're primarily watching us, is a big help, too. So follow us on YouTube, New Generation Media. That's greatly appreciated. And, of course, the podcast channel, subscribe to the channel on the podcast channel, wherever you listen to your podcast. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn. Hit us up there and subscribe. New Generation Podcast Network, where you'll find us there. That's where all the episodes live for 40 days and 40 nights. And leave a 5-star review if you can. If you want to leave a 4-star review, you can. But 5 is, of course, what we will help. Reminds me of that Dr. Umar thing where he's like, thanks for that $5. Next time, make it 10. But I know you barely had that 5. But no, I know you may want to give a 4. Oh, that was okay. If you can help me, I prefer to get a 5. If you can give me a 5, that really helps. But leave a review, and if you can leave a written review, that also helps as well. So that's how you can support the show and support the channel. Again, thank you guys for rocking with me. Let's get the ball rolling, man. I want to get this going. I got a lot to talk about today. And I want to begin, of course, with the Knicks. So the Knicks make the move. They add Jeremy Sochan to the roster. Jeremy Sochan is going to be joining the Knicks after agreeing to a buyout with the San Antonio Spurs. The 22-year-old was the 9th overall pick in the 2022 NBA draft. He had fallen out of the rotation for the Spurs for a little while now. I remember when the Knicks played the Spurs they played them a couple of times. They played them during the NBA Cup, and then they played them in San Antonio. I think it was a San Antonio game I noticed. One of the games I noticed where I was like, oh, Sochan's over there. Damn, he ain't even playing. And I sent my brother the meme of the Cam Newton, the infamous meme now, Cam Newton grilling Keon Coleman. I was like, that whole took the Buffalo City by storm. That's how I felt about Jeremy Sochan. All the dancing, and I love cookies. The Sochan's also kind of like a lively character. And it fit well. I was like, this is Jeremy Sochan. Watching him riding the pine for the San Antonio Spurs. I couldn't figure out why he really wasn't playing, but they drafted Carter Bryant this year from Arizona. Carter Bryant and him actually kind of have some similarities, but Carter Bryant can shoot the ball a little bit more. He's not necessarily the ball handler and point forward type that Sochan can be, but they are both defenders. They both shoot, are guys who can guard multiple positions. But Sochan's a non-shooter, and Carter Bryant can make jump shots. So Bryant has kind of been slow coming along, but he's played really well of late. And I think the Spurs realized that they weren't going to go back to Sochan after giving Bryant an extended run in the rotation. So that opened up the spot. They couldn't find a trade for him. And now here he gets bought out, and now he becomes a New York Knicks. So this year, like I said, he's had limited playing time. So he was only averaging 4 points and 2 rebounds per game in 28 games this season. Before his career averages, he's averaged 10 points, 5 rebounds in about 212 games. Again, he's 22 right now. He turns 23 in May. So this is still a young player. This is a guy that entered the draft essentially right out of Baylor, 1 year of college, and he was in the pros. So I think this is a strong addition for the Knicks. This is, again, similar to Alvarado, one of these kind of pieces that they have been missing, right? Like another plus defender who had some size that can guard multiple positions from the wing. They really have put all their eggs in the OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges basket for when it comes to wing defense, and those guys are awesome at it. But the problem comes when those guys come out the game, and Josh Hart is the other, I guess, wing defender, but he's small. He's about 6'4", 6'5". You don't have really much other size at that kind of body type to guard those Jason Tatums, those wing guys that we know can dominate the league. And now you add a guy who definitely can guard 3 to 4 positions. I mean, Sochan is a very good defensive player. I mean, I did a ton of work on him coming out of Baylor, and that was essentially his jam and why people were excited about him. Was this was a guy that looked like He could guard 1 through 4, maybe even 1 through 5 in small ball lineups. It's been a little bit rough go in terms of the Spurs trying to find an actual fit for him, whether he could play some 4 against next to Wembanyama or trying to play him at small ball 5. They couldn't quite figure it out. I think this will be a still a good fit for him with the Knicks. I think the Knicks are going to be in a situation where his lack of shooting won't hurt them maybe as much as it hurt the Spurs. Spurs are a very good team, but they have a lot of guards that I don't consider like lasers, as LeBron calls them, from the outside. Fox can make jump shots, but he's not a shooter. Castle can make jump shots. He's not a shooter. Dylan Harper can make jump shots, not a shooter, right? Wemby is also kind of a scorer type. So if you don't have, like, with those kind of guys, especially Castle and Fox and Harper, those guys are Tasmanians getting to the rim. If you don't have the floor spacing around those guys, it becomes easier to keep those guys out of the paint. With the Knicks can find Sochan minutes in lineups where there are other 4 shooters. Now, you can't really maybe play him with Mitchell Robinson unless you're willing to go a little stretch where you don't got a lot of shooting out there on the floor. But any lineup he's out there with Karl-Anthony Towns, he's probably going to have Towns plus 3 other shooters out there on the floor. Because the Knicks now don't have many non-shooters on the team. Obviously, Brunson, Hart shot the ball pretty well. Maybe you want to avoid lines with Hart, but even Hart shooting the ball as good as he's shot maybe in his career this year. Obviously, OG can shoot it. Mikal can shoot it. Medusa is healthy, he can shoot it. Jose can shoot it. I mean, Shaman is arguably the best shooter on the team. So the Knicks have outside shooting. That's not really what they need. I think what they lacked, though, again, was size at the wing beyond their starting lineup. Now you had a guy who's a legit 6'8", long arms, can guard multiple positions. I love this piece. And I think there's actually also an ulterior motive to this that is it kind of makes me sad because I love watching this guy play. But Mo Diarra, as I think I might have talked about this earlier today, these days blending together. But I was talking about the Knicks and I think I talked about this, maybe it was on Monday or maybe it was today. Again, these days blend together. But either way, Mo Diarra, who was their second round pick, the 51st pick in the draft, has come into this season and he is a guy that is hard to keep on the bench. Like, I know the Knicks didn't have maybe the highest expectations for him, but he shoots the ball really well. He could defend multiple positions. He's extremely athletic. I know he's 20 years old, and he's raw. Like, there's things he's still got to get to, but I think the more minutes he plays, the more time he gets, he looks extremely comfortable on the floor. But the problem is, so you think, okay, what's the deal? Well, then play him. What's the problem? Well, the problem is he's on a 1-year deal. Because of the Knicks, I think how they wanted to manipulate the salary cap and put themselves in a position to not be in the second apron, they gave him just a 1-year contract. And with that 1-year contract now, he becomes a free agent after this year. The Knicks can resign him, obviously. They have his rights, but they're trying to avoid the second apron. And Diarra's kind of playing too well to avoid not getting a kind of a nice deal if he actually enters a rotation. Once they got Yabusele out of here, Diarra's been getting those minutes and he's been playing well. I have a sneaky suspicion that they thought, let's get a veteran here that gives us a convenient excuse to say, oh, sorry, Diarra, you were playing great, but even though the guy's only 2 years older than him, Sochan's a veteran, but he's young. We have a guy who's a young, older, a little more mature, a little more ready to win now, so we're going to play him. Sorry, I know you were playing great, so now the rest of the league maybe won't see the tape that you were putting out there. You can't continue to put out great tape, and we lose you in free agency because we can't afford you. I wonder if that's an ulterior motive to this, because I think that him and Sochan are very similar body types, similar games to some degree. Again, Mo's a better shooter, but like Sochan, I mean, this guy is a real defender, and he's a pest, and he's another irritant. I love the Knicks getting these irritant guys. Like, remember last year when they got PJ Tucker, and a lot of Knicks fans were kind of excited. They were like, oh, yes, this is, like, they need an OG who's not afraid to, to kind of rough up some guys a little bit. If he's got to go out there and play 2-3 minutes just to get some flagrant fouls, like, he'll do that. Like, this is the kind of guy they needed. A lot of people were excited for PJ Tucker, and I love PJ Tucker, but the version we got was a lot more of the cuddly PJ Tucker, it seems. Like when you think of like the Hulk, my brother Ken always jokes how like we have this like cuddly Hulk who's wearing, actually Shamari does it, who wearing these cardigan sweaters and glasses. And it's like, where's the Hulk with some oomph? Where's the Hulk with some swagger? We got this Hulk that's wearing cardigan sweaters and sitting in diners. We don't want this Hulk. Where's the other Hulk? That's kind of how I felt when we got it with PJ Tucker. Like he looked like PJ Tucker. He had the same fresh kicks as PJ Tucker, but Draymond's acting like a lunatic and he's hugging up Draymond Green and showing how much he loves him. And I'm like, yo, you're supposed to be the enforcer. When Draymond's acting like that, you're supposed to, do essentially what Isaiah Stewart did the other night. Run off the bench and fight somebody. Like, we didn't want this version of PJ Tucker. But shout out to PJ Tucker because he had some game late in the season where he actually came out there and actually did get some good energy. But he clearly was like, I'm at the end of my road. I'm not trying to fight nobody out here. I'm just trying to collect this check, give the guys good advice, and then, be a good OG, which he was. But now when you add, like, Alvarado, who's gotten into fights, Sochan, he may be Australian, but he will mix it up. He's going to get in guys' faces. He's going to, again, be a pest and be annoying because that's just his game. That's how it's very obvious. I'm not saying this guy, he's not Dennis Rodman, let me be clear. But because he can be an irritant and because he has the colorful hair, when he was coming up in the draft, they were like, he kind of looks like a young Dennis Rodman. Like, I don't know if he's going to have that kind of impact, but that's how he looks. And it definitely feels like that's someone that he's kind of patterned his game after. So again, that's a guy the Knicks can use, and you're getting him. There's no risk with this. You sign him for the rest of the year. You see what happens. I think he can come in and he can play right away, which again may put DRR to the bench. I will say I don't think the Knicks should be married to him having to get a lot of minutes. See how he fits in. I think if he comes in and he's great and exactly what they need, then DRR sits on the bench, and that's fine. And again, I'm okay with that. If he's not gelling, he's not meshing with the rest of the guys, I also don't have a problem with DRR taking back that spot in the rotation. But there's no downside to this. You're adding another competent player. You're adding another defensive player. This team has righted the ship defensively, which is great. Just before these moves where you add Alvarado and then you add Sochan. But now, those issues, if you're worried that they may prop up in the playoffs or prop up at some point during the rest of this season, the Knicks, just from a roster standpoint, now have a much better physical profile defensively. Alvarado's small, but the guy's a pit bull, and he's a great point of attack defender. And Sochan is 6'8", and he could pick up full court. Like, that's the kind of defender he is. So I love this move. I'm really excited about this. I don't know if he has a future here beyond just this year, but I think that he's a guy that can help this team right now. He can be a little wild. He can be a little turnover prone, but he's an underrated passer. Again, he's a guy that they tried to play point guard for the Spurs. That didn't go that great because he can't shoot. He's like it's like trying to play Ben Simmons, right? Like he's a poor man's Ben Simmons in that regard. So that was not a good idea. But they have tried to play him at point guard, which just shows his capabilities and his handle and his passing ability. So he's versatile. He can guard multiple positions, and he's hungry because he was, I saw some of the comments from their coach, Mitch Johnson, and he said that, he knows Sochan wants to play, and that's what he wants, right? He wants guys that want to play, that don't want to be on the bench. And Sochan himself said that this has been a tough time for him. He's been, because of his high school life, coming over to America and jumping from school to school, because that's just the nature of high school ball, and then arriving at Baylor, and it wasn't really expected he'd be a one and done. He was kind of one and done out of nowhere, and now he's a one and done. He said, I basically have been going to a different place every year since I was 15 years old. Then I got drafted by the Spurs as a 19-year-old, and I felt like I had a home, and then I was playing. I'd never been in a situation where I wasn't playing, and now for the first time in my life, he's a late bloomer to basketball, but the first time in my life, I'm not getting any burn. This is tough. But to his credit, though, that's why I sent that text to Kendall about, that playful, stuff that I talked about with Cam Newton. I said that because he was active on the bench. He was rooting for his teammates. He was clapping. He was giving Knicks hell from the bench. He was talking trash and stuff. I'm like, what is this guy talking about? You're on the bench. But for a guy who was a first round pick, it was killing him. He wasn't getting burned. And on a team that's a good team, it's hard to get minutes on that team. That's not. I don't look at that and say, oh, you're getting this guy is a throwaway because they're cutting him. I just think, where was he going to play? And I think they're doing him a solid by saying, hey, we'll let you go. You go to the East, we'll let you go. And that's what they did. So now Knicks pick up Sochan. I'm curious, does he get inserted to the line, into the rotation immediately? OG's been dealing with this toenail issue thing. I'm hope with the Knicks. You never know, a toenail thing with something. Actually, he has a broken foot. I'm knocking on wood that this is not something that becomes serious. But assuming that OG is back, I'm curious if they just throw him right in the rotation immediately. Like, I think we kind of knew Alvarado was going to take Kolek's spot in the rotation, but we had to see it happen, and then we did see it happen. I'm wondering if this is going to be, again, plucking a veteran from another team and just throwing him in there. And that young guy that the Knicks were developing that was playing well, they say, sorry, buddy, you're off to the bench. You're back to being, as Tom Thibodeau said, situational. I will be fascinated to see if that happens because Diawara is playing good. Like, he's playing good. I want him to be a Knick for a long time. And I hope that they're able to sign him in a weird way. This might actually help. Even if Sochan's only here for a year. And you say, okay, now he gets paid by somebody else next year. You can say, yeah, but now we kind of kept Diawara's cost in check. And now we can sign him to a multi-year deal. So that's kind of how I see this Sochan deal. But I'm really excited about it. Let me know what you think, Knicks fans, if you're in the chat. What did you think of the Jeremy Sochan signing for the New York Knicks? I think it's a good one. I'm really excited about it. We got in the chat. I mentioned earlier again. I got a nice thoughtful I think group of guests that I'm really considering, and some people have already been signed. We got T3 and D asking about good old David Shepard, aka Shepard Wolf. Shep knows he has an invitation. I texted him. Hit up Shep yourself. Let him know. Hey, get on 40 Days of 40 Nights. We want to hear you talk to EJ. No, Shep's a man. Again, another guy who also really was instrumental, kind of making me feel welcome at Infinity Sports Network. So always a major shout out to Shep. Yeah, Shep. I'm trying to get him on. There was actually an effort to try to get him on. I want to say this week. This was the week I was trying to get him on. He's doing phenomenal things at Sirius XM Radio, hosting the post game stuff for the NBA channel, which is awesome. And knowing how much he loves the NBA, how much he loves basketball, and how knowledgeable he is, he deserves that. Like, he lives, eats, sleeps, and breathes NBA ball. So I'm really happy for Shep. He's a great guy off the mic, and he's been super supportive for me. So, yeah, I want to get him on. I've been trying to get him on. So hit up Shep yourself and tweet him. Say, yo, get on 40 and 49. This is a dope-ass show. And EJ says he's been trying to get you on. So get on the air. I would appreciate that. Another question here. This one from Bob Custer in Nevada. We talked a lot of Yankees over the last few days, and we played a lot of Aaron Boone sound yesterday. He's asking here, is Aaron Boone the right guy to lead your team to the promised land? Baseball is so weird because on the one hand, I could argue the manager in baseball is the least important head coach, quote unquote, of any of the major American pro sports that are team sports, obviously. But their decisions can also be directly pointed for like why you lose. So it goes both ways. Like, it's like, well, it's kind of like they're all robots and they kind of like just go by the computers, or really like the front office is calling the shots in a lot of these situations. But then on the flip side, like if a manager does have a little more leeway, that decision to leave Pedro Martinez out for another inning in Boston against the Yankees in Game 7 costed Grady Little his job, and it was very obviously the wrong decision. We could point to so many different decisions that Aaron Boone has made that you could argue have cost the Yankees playoff games, cost them important games during the regular season. I'm not the biggest Boone guy, but I also feel like I don't want to overrate the role of the manager and say that you could not win with this guy. Like, if you gave him Dave Roberts' roster with the Dodgers, are you telling me he couldn't win a World Series? I would not sit here, even as a Boone detractor, and tell you that. That sounds insane. I think at a certain point, if you've got enough talent, you're going to get there. Now, the question I think that's maybe better is, does Aaron Boone, does he add to the win total? Does he put a thumb on the scale that for a team that maybe would be a 95 win team is a 101 win team? For a team that should be maybe a wild card and out team, they become a ALCS team or NLCS team if he's managing the National League. That is the better question that I think is more interesting and tougher to answer. This one I think is kind of easy. Is yes. I think most managers can lead a team to the promised land given the right roster. That's just how baseball works. But when it comes to winning in the margins, is he that guy? That's a little bit of a question mark, and I don't think he's proven to be that guy yet. That's been my issue with him. Is the Yankees have had rosters that have, in my opinion, been good enough to win championships, and for whatever reason, they love Boone. They seem to still listen to his message, but the Yankees have had consistent issues, in my opinion, with a lack of fundamentals that has plagued them since Aaron Boone has been the manager. They've won a lot in spite of that, in part because they've had great players. They just had great players, better players than other teams have had. But think about the fielding issues, mental errors, base running issues. Like, they make mistakes that a team as buttoned up as the Yankees and a team that should be taking everything as seriously as they usually do, as the Yankees do, they shouldn't make these mistakes. You shouldn't be a team that says it's championship or bust every year, and you continue to overlook the small things. You continue to fail when it comes to sound base running. Your play out in the field is shoddy. Like, it's just sloppiness. Like, there's just been too much sloppiness, especially in recent years, for my liking for Aaron Boone. So there's some of those things that I think, is it costing the Yankees chances to win championships? Nobody hit, and they couldn't get anybody out against Toronto. Like, I can't say, they're base running, even though there were base running issues in that series. I can't say their base running or their fielding were the reason they lost. I think they lost to a team that was playing better than them. That was probably the better team. So it's a complicated answer. My answer to that question is yes, but again, I think when I go back to now, okay, forget about that. Like, is he the kind of manager that, like, he actually improves your potential and he improves the win total from what you should get? Or are you just getting what you're supposed to get based on your talent you get? I kind of think that's what he is. I think whatever he adds when it comes to how the players respond to him, I think they do respond to him. I think they do love him. I think they really respect him as a manager and as a baseball man, because he's a baseball man. And I think that goes a long way with the players. When he says something, I think they're more willing to listen than some, like, stat geek. But, again, to me, I think poor focus, poor fundamentals, and poor defense, I think in baseball, that is a reflection of your manager. I always will believe that. So that's a long answer, but I do think that a lot of that is on Boone. Does that mean I don't think he can win a championship with the Yankees? No. I think if the Yankees put together the right team around him, and again, they are buying into him, that hasn't been the case. I'll say they can't win a title with him, or he can't get you to the promised land when I see people start ignoring him. That hasn't quite happened yet. So I'm not there yet with Boone. But it's a great question when it comes to Aaron Boone. Let's see, what else we got? We got Bob Custer also in the chat saying, I guess I was talking about P.J. Tucker and how he was not the enforcer I think many Knicks fans hoped he would be. He said, EJ, I don't buy that many of these guys are really mortal enemies. He adds that somebody makes a great play, humiliates someone, and after the game they still dap him up. I think it's kind of like, remember the great stuff Ali used to do, created his adversaries. He's like, now, when the Pistons didn't shake hands with the Bulls after that series, remember that? You've seen that video? No, I think the Pistons were just being jerks, and MJ still rightfully pissed about it. That is an era of sports that is of yesteryear that we just will never get back. I think the only time you'll see that kind of adversarial relationship between athletes, I'll say in team sports. So that kind of limits almost everything. But I think in combat sports, I think you can still see some of that adversarial relationship. Like, I know DC's been retired for a while, but and Bob, you may know because you're in Nevada, like in the UFC fights and how big they are in Vegas, like there was nothing fake about Daniel Cormier versus John Jones and the pure hatred those men have for each other. There was no doubt about Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, right? Like those are blood feuds. Those are real ops. But those guys are getting in a boxing ring and a cage to punch each other in the face and try to, in UFC, possibly choke you out or break a limb. Like, it comes with violence. So therefore, there is that kind of violence. I think that there's a lot of reasons why you don't have that same adversarial relationship. And quite frankly, I think in all sports, I think even football, you're starting to feel it a little bit too. It's because in the NFL, you have a lot of guys now with the explosion in the popularity of 7-on-7 leagues and tournaments and travel teams. Like, now a lot of these kids who typically maybe the kids in just your state or even just your town or maybe just the section of your state, maybe you just know the guys in Southeast Ohio, or maybe if you're a Florida boy, maybe you know the boys from South Florida, but you don't know the guys that are playing up in Orlando well, or playing up in near Tallahassee well, playing up near Gainesville. You may not know those guys that well. It's different now. These kids, if you're a guy who's a D1 type talent, like you're playing on a 7-on-7 team, and you're traveling all throughout your state, you're traveling sometimes all throughout your country, you're going to meet some of these kids. And it's, you know, when you play on the AAU circuit or the 7-on-7 circuit, like, yeah, you're playing hard and you want to, you know, improve, you know, play, but you're having fun. You're kids. Of course you're going to have sensibilities. You're going to make friends. And with the NBA, like, AAU basketball also became so nationalized, and there's so much travel involved, and there's so many guys who have known each other now since they were 11, 12 years old, where, again, similar to 7-on-7, like, it was like regional. Where, like, maybe you knew the guys in New York. Maybe you knew the guys in Philly if you were a guy from Philly. Maybe you knew the Southern California LA Cats if you were an LA baller, right? Now these guys, you know those guys, but you also know everybody else around the country. You've probably played them in some national spotlight or some AAU tournament. Or now the high school teams now are going, there's these fake high schools. There's essentially, I call them fake high schools, but they're basketball schools that are created for basketball, even though they are high schools, that are essentially playing national schedules. Like Manny, who does play-by-play for Stepanak, he talks all the time about how, like, in Stepanak's not like they're a real school and they're an actual Catholic school. Shout out to Archbishop Stepanak. They play in the same Catholic high school league that I played in growing up in New York City, the CHSAA. Like, Stepanak was playing games in Florida, playing games all over the country because they're one of the top schools in America. And with that comes sensibilities, you meet kids and stuff. So with that, plus all the money that's being made, which is going to lead me to Kevin Durant in a second, plus also the nature of, again, these teams with free agency and player movement is as prominent as ever, where teams can cut you and trade you, whatever. So who has loyalty to a team? Like, why am I on the Chicago Bulls? Why am I fighting some guy on the Detroit Pistons through some kind of hatred because I'm a Bull, he's a Piston? Like, I could be a Piston tomorrow. Like, I could be a Piston next year. Like, that's just the nature of the beast, where back then, because there wasn't free agency, it was a lot, or free agency was very limited, it was a lot harder for guys to drum up any animosity to one particular team, or, you know, feel some kind of sense of loyalty to a team. Like, I saw James Harden. Maybe I can see if I can play real quick. I know sometimes playing sound that I don't have live is kind of tricky, but James Harden was asked about what he thinks about, you know, the idea of loyalty. I guess probably off the fact that he is not playing, you know, for the team that drafted him, and then the next team, and then the next team, and the next team. He has jumped around the league when it comes to all the teams he played for, and he essentially said, like, I think loyalty is overrated, which he be one to say because he is a guy who, again, has jumped around from team to team. So it makes sense for him to be like, I don't think loyalty is overrated. But I do think that when you look at these athletes, loyalty is overrated. Like, because, again, that team could say how much we love you and all you've done for us. Think about Draymond Green, and he was essentially a guy who, if Giannis Antetokounmpo really wanted to be a Warrior, there's a good chance that Draymond Green would have been traded. Like, that actually almost happened. Draymond Green, think about all the things that him and the Warriors have been through. Think about the kind of game he plays, where he's an enforcer, he's throwing his body on the line, he's doing everything he can to help Steph Curry, and that's a guy they were willing to trade. A 4-time champion, a guy who's one of the most important figures in the history of their franchise. And Giannis Antetokounmpo was out there, and they're like, we will trade you in a second. That's just, again, the nature of sports. So it's very hard to really sit here and talk about, you know, whether guys are going to still have the same kind of animosity he used to have in the past. Like, I just don't think that's ever going to happen. This is a kind of a long answer. I'll play as much as I can of it, and hopefully I can get the part of it where Harden speaks specifically about loyalty here.
And the whole quote-unquote loyalty thing I think it's overrated. You know, I think this is a business at the end of the day, and it's a lot of money involved and a lot of decisions that has to be made. You know what I mean? So, you know, like, if a player isn't producing, or if you don't see him in the future, or, you know, front office, some of them have to do, like, a job and want to keep their job, you know, so they got to feel like they got to do what's best for, you know, to keep their job, and they trade players. Or if a guy isn't happy and he wants to be traded to somewhere else, then it's a problem. It's just so many different dynamics that go into it. This is a business at the end of the day. So, like, you know, not even just NBA, but, like, people that have normal jobs have those same problems. It's just not.
Yeah, I mean, so that's Harden there, and it's like a 1 minute and 34-minute answer. I don't want to give him all that, but like obviously James Harden is taking that to the max. In terms of like, I don't have loyalty for anybody. It's like, all right, I get no loyalty, but like you're just up and demanding trades every time you're unhappy. Like at a certain point, again, what I think these guys are missing sight on, and maybe they don't care because like James Harden said, it's a business and there's a lot of money being made, so he just might not care about this stuff anymore. But I do think. I feel like Durant's feeling it a little bit. I don't know. Maybe Harden may feel it. I think he doesn't. I think the people of Houston don't have the same animosity that the people of OKC still have for Durant. But I do think that if you keep this attitude of like, well, I don't care about these other teams. I F loyalty. Like I just want to look out for myself and just jump from team to team. You know, it's like that line Drake's had in that beef with Joe Budden when he was like, you know, nobody was there when they hung your jersey. Like. At the end of the day, you're going to be a retired athlete, and you're just going to want to have the love from the fans and from some organization because it leads to more money, more benefits. Like there's a reason why Carmelo Anthony continues to be in good graces with the New York Knicks, even though his time with the Knicks ended very poorly. Phil Jackson essentially jettisoned him out of here and was extremely disrespectful to him on the way out. And Melo came back, and Melo is sitting there at the Knicks games. It feels like every week he's there all the time. He's become Mr. Nick. And it's smart for him. Like, it helps him with his branding and everything he wants to do off the court that he is still embraced as a New York Knick. And we have the motto, once a Knick, always a Knick. And Melo was loyal. There were plenty of opportunities where he could have left, and he didn't. He stayed with the Knicks, even though the Knicks were a sorry-ass team. Like, I think that there's benefits to it that these guys don't see and they don't know yet. And I think Durant has felt it. I've seen him fight people online, the Thunder fans, especially after they won a title, were like, here you go, like, you did all that stuff, and yet we came out and we won a title without you. Ha, ha, ha. And, like, in theory, like, Durant, that's the place where Durant should get his number retired. They should still honor him as a legend. He probably should have a statue outside the arena. I'm dead serious. Like, Shea gets the first, right? He definitely gets one. But in years and years away, given what Durant putting that team on the map, franchise on the map, the Oklahoma City experiment may have failed if Durant isn't the superstar he was. He should have a statue, but that's never going to happen. I'm telling you right now, that's never going to happen. Those people don't rock with him like that. They love Russell Westbrook because Russell Westbrook was loyal. He stayed for a long time, and he only left essentially when most of his prime years were up. But he stayed. And now when he goes back, he gets a standing ovation every time he comes back. And he's going to retire, and he ain't going to live in OKC, but I'm sure he's going to want to have businesses in OT, business practices in OKC. He's going to have opportunities, and he's going to be welcomed with open arms because he's still a hometown hero. That, I think, is what these guys miss when it comes to thinking there's no loyalty. Like, you're right, there is no loyalty. And you could be traded at any moment, or teams can decide we're done with you, but I think burning bridges, going that far with it, I think also comes with its detriments. And I don't know if these guys don't know it yet, but I think they hopefully they will learn that at some point. As a random, obviously I went on a tangent, but that's how 40 days to 40 nights goes. You guys ask a question, and I get into my what my family calls the Elisa Stewart soapbox. So my mom is very known to, like, you ask her a question, you say one comment, and she'll go on a 25-minute rant on everything happening in the world, in life, in history. I get a little of that from my mom, so that's what you're hearing from here. But let's get to Kevin Durant. This is what I want to talk about, man. I want to talk about this morning because I find this conversation very fascinating as well. So the All-Star game's coming up, and I actually had a pretty extended rant yesterday about the All-Star game and the fact that they were bringing all these influencers there. There are 200 of them. They're going to be an army of influencers to try to hope to capture everything happening at the game and hopes to get the NBA as many eyeballs and as much attention to the event as possible. And a lot of legacy media folks are PO'd because at the end of the day, like, these people aren't journalists and they're out purely for, like, self-promotion, and they're they're out for themselves, and and then they get in the way of people trying to do their jobs because these people are doing stunts and all this stuff. I saw James Edwards, who covers the Knicks for The Athletic, said that when I was at the NBA Cup, I had a question to ask that was interrupted by some guy who's an influencer who wanted to do a stunt with like one of the players, and the guy did the stunt and then like left, and then that was the end of the press conference. So I didn't get the question I needed to get in from the presser. So I get that aspect of it, and that's what the NBA is really not concerned themselves with. Like they don't care about that. They want to get as many viewers as possible. But what I kept saying was, I felt like this still comes down to desperation from the league for an event that the players killed. The players at the end of the day did not have the kind of respect for the league and the understanding of the responsibility they have as caretakers for the sport. They don't understand it. They still don't understand it. And I think this is one example of that with how they've treated NBA All-Star Weekend, not just the All-Star Game, but also the dunk contest, and how that has deteriorated over years. They just feel like this stuff doesn't matter because all they see is they go to their bottom line and they see these massive checks. And they're like, why the hell would I go hard in an exhibition game or compete in a dunk contest where, okay, I win some money and maybe I get a car or something like that if I'm MVP of the All-Star Game, I win the dunk contest, a lifetime supply of Sprite or something like that. But otherwise, what's in it for me? And what ends up happening is these moments and these things that are iconic elements of the league, they lose value. And when those things lose value, the whole league loses value. You may make money still, but it still hurts the product overall. And eventually, what goes around comes around. Like, I think a lot of these athletes think that this is forever. This money that's here is forever, and this will always be here, and this league's always going to grow, and nothing's too big to fail. Well, ask Major League Baseball where they were 30 years ago, and ask them how they feel where they are right now. Ask the NBA where they were 25 years ago, 30 years ago, and how they feel right now. See, those guys don't care because they just see their checks. They're making more money, so like, we don't care about that. But like, again, that's not. In some ways, that's fickle. In some ways, that's temporary. Eventually, if the interest continues to decline overall in the sport, that money, they're pulling that money back. They're not gonna have that forever. So I think they're not seeing the forest through the trees with a lot of these things. But I thought Kevin Durant made very interesting points because he was asked a question about the competitive nature of the NBA All-Star Game because he's on the team. There's 3 teams, 2 USA teams, and 1 World team. This is now the NBA's what has to be like their 4th or 5th iteration of the All-Star Game in the last 10 years to try to drum up some excitement, drum up some more competition, which I want to get to in a second because I think he's losing sight of that. But here's Kevin Durant when he's asked, "Hey, you guys are the old heads. It's you, it's Steph Curry, it's LeBron, and like is the old head team, quote unquote? Do you guys feel a responsibility to up the competition in the game this year?" Durant feels like the finger should not be pointed at him or American basketball players.
Should ask the Europeans if the world team if they're gonna compete. I mean, because we look at Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic now. Let's go back and look at what they do in the All-Star game. Is that competition? So we haven't questioned what they've been doing, but we're gonna question the old heads and the Americans. But these 2 dudes out there, Luka and Jokic, they don't care about the game at all.
And Durant continues saying that he thinks he can read between the lines when people continue to question American basketball players about, their competitiveness in the All-Star Game.
These dudes be laying on the floor, they shoot from half court, but you got to worry about the old heads playing hard. I can read between the lines, bro. And I just think a lot of times, I'm just say that I can read between the lines. And it's not just about you. It's just a overall topic that everybody has just been talking about. You just happen to ask me that question.
And I appreciate it. Durant seems to be very happy in Houston. I feel like he actually does give a lot of pointed answers. We just see a lot of the other side of KD. But I actually appreciated that, like, he kind of softened that. And I don't think he was super harsh. He was just being honest. I'm like he said, hey, like, I'm not going to go after you. The guy, I don't think he wanted any of that smoke. I think he was just asking a simple question. Durant had feelings about it. I've appreciated Durant's just whole demeanor in Houston. He just seems to be not as much a curmudgeon. But Durant there says, I can read between the lines. Well, here's David Dennis Jr. Now, I told you guys, I don't like doing takes on takes. I don't typically like playing commentary from other non-athletes, not out of disrespect for them or any way. It's just something that we practice on the Maggie and Perloff show often, and I do really kind of believe in the idea that, like, I don't want people to think, oh, I got to go just watch David Dennis. So shout out to him. No, he's a smart dude, and he has compelling thoughts. And he took a stab at trying to answer what Kevin Durant meant when he said he can read between the lines. And this was on ESPN's First Take earlier today.
He's tired of the way that everybody uses when they talk specifically about NBA players, Black American NBA players. They always use every excuse to call them lazy and say they don't deserve the money that they get. This is a conversation that comes around all the time, and they use it specifically around All-Star games. They use it with load management, use it with all this other stuff talking about these players. And Kevin Durant is simply pointing out everybody treats this game the same. Ask Luka these questions. Ask Jokic this question. Why is it when the NHL has a competitive U.S. versus the world tournament last year, it's about how the NBA players are lazy and you're making character judgments on NBA players? That's what Kevin Durant is saying in that comment. He is saying, don't pinpoint us and use this as an excuse to call us lazy when everybody treats the game the same way.
And I think that is what Kevin Durant is trying to say. I don't think David Dennis is wrong in that assessment. And then Dennis, I didn't play the second part, but I know Dennis, then he was asked, like, do you agree with him? And Dennis said, yes, I agree with him. Look at the commentary from the Four Nations Cup last year, which got rave reviews for good reason. It was phenomenal watching those games happen, those highly competitive games that should have been happening, typically would be an all-star game, but instead you had this Four Nations tournament. And you had guys treating this like it was the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like it was awesome. It was like, whoa, this is how All-Star Weekend should look. We want to see the best players in the world absolutely going at it. And the NHL putting the NBA to shame for this horrendous showing that we saw at the NBA All-Star game. I think it was like the week prior. So that definitely was the narrative, and it definitely, I think, is what Kevin Durant is pointing to a little bit, that he feels like this is an unfair thing where you're talking about these black athletes, and we're getting the brunt of this when if you actually watch those games, look at the guys that are giving the worst effort, which is what Kevin Durant did say. And I will back him up. First of all, I think Durant makes good points. I will 100% back him up that if you actually do watch those games, Jokic and Luka, I wish those guys would not show up. Their efforts, the jokes that they pull, like they're clowns in these games. I want to make that extremely clear. And I feel like when I've talked about this, I have not made it an American versus European thing, because I've been highly critical of the NBA players. What I keep saying, and I'll keep saying it again, and I have no problem to continue to keep saying it, that this is the corniest generation of NBA stars. American, European, African, like Adrian Brody said, anybody can get it. Africans, Americans, Mexicans. That's how I feel. I don't care who you want to talk about. Y'all all corny. You're all corny because you're all a part of this. But is he fair to say that it seems like the LeBrons and the Durants and the American guys, do they seem to get more of the brunt of this when those particular guys are like really egregious at how they take the game? Yes. As someone who, unfortunately, because I love the NBA and I love basketball, I watch this crap. Yes, he's 100% right. Those guys take it as a complete joke, and it's a waste for them to be there. He's 100% right. Can't debate him on that. What I will push back on him, though, and why I think that while that is true, I don't think it matters. Here's why. Because of what I said yesterday. They don't call NBA All-Star Weekend the Slovenian Super Bowl. They don't call NBA All-Star Weekend the Croatian Super Bowl, or the Russian Super Bowl, or the Latvian Super Bowl, or the Italian Super Bowl, or the Spanish Super Bowl, or the French Super Bowl. What have we called, and I say we, because it's all Americans, but we as in, what do they call the NBA All-Star Weekend? The Black Super Bowl. Because it, in many years, has been, again, like I said yesterday, an unofficial celebration of black excellence all coming together. It's a league that's predominantly black. It's been predominantly black for a long time, obviously. And a lot of, for whatever reason, a lot of celebrities have treated NBA All-Star Weekend the weekend that you had to be to, because all the parties and all the celebrations and seeing these incredible athletes all in once. It was it was almost like the Grammys. It was almost like the Oscars. Don't tell me that for something that we have made our own and made it special, that it's the Europeans' fault and they are the ones that should bear the responsibility for why we have ruined what people have accurately called the Black Super Bowl. I don't think that that's a fair approach to this. And I'm not here to like crush Kevin Durant because I think he makes fair points. But in terms of bringing up Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic, you know what you should do when Luka Doncic is sitting on the floor? Step on his ass. When Jokic wants to dribble behind his back and travel, rip the ball from his hands or give him a little hard foul. You set the tone for this because it should be important to you because of what it means for the NBA and what it means for the culture. Luka Doncic is not part of the culture. Nikola Jokic is not part of the culture. You are Kevin Durant. You are LeBron James. You are Steph Curry. You guys were the responsibility in terms of keeping this thing alive. Like, imagine if Magic Johnson was like, yeah, I know you guys are worried about me, but what about Tony Kukoc from the Rising Stars game? Like, what? No, it's not about that. They're not the reason for why we're here. Where they're part of the reason, they're part of the game. And it's not like, and I don't want to make this like, oh, those guys don't matter in terms of the All-Star game. They're the two of the best players in the NBA. We want to see those guys play hard too. But I do think it a little bit is like a deflecting of responsibility for how important it is to us. And I say us, but also just Americans in general, just basketball fans of all ethnicities, of all races, of all colors. To put it on them when this game has never really been about them is, I think it's I just don't think it fits. I don't think the narrative fits. It doesn't. It's past a smell test to me. It's accurate in terms of how to describe recent All-Star games that have been awful and a disaster. Yes, those guys have sucked in it. But those guys aren't competing in no dunk contest. Who the hell wants to see Luka Doncic in a dunk contest? Who wants to see Nikola Jokic in a dunk contest? What happened to All-Star Saturday night, Kevin Durant? David Dennis? We weren't asking the Europeans to flood our dunk contest and make that terrible. Last time I checked, we're doing that. We're saying no pass. I'm too cool for that. I'm too sick. I'm too injured. I'm too lit. Whatever the excuse is. We're going to blame Luka Doncic and Kevin Durant for that too? This whole weekend is a disaster. It's not just the game. The game is part of it for sure. But to me, this all started with not taking NBA All-Star Saturday Night seriously, not taking the dunk contest seriously. And from that standpoint, that's not on Luka Doncic. That's not on any European players. That's on LeBron James. That's on Zion Williamson. That's on Ja Morant. That's on Anthony Edwards. That's on every great dunker that we've had for the last 20 freaking years who said, I know Michael Jordan did this. I know Kobe Bryant did this. I know Dominique Wilkins did this. I know Julius freaking Irving did this. I'm too lit for it. I'm good. I'm cool. What? With dunk contest? What does that do for me? Why do I have to do this? Oh, Mike did it? Whatever. All good. I don't need to do that. That's all part of the experience that is being failed by these players. And it's made this weekend almost a dreaded weekend. Now I'm like, I'm just mad there's not NBA basketball for a week. I'm like, this is gonna be a joke. Like, I don't care about this. And there was a time you looked forward to it. You looked forward to seeing NBA Saturday night and seeing what was gonna happen in dunk contests. And I'm not saying, we need to have the best NBA All-Stars in it every year, because guess what? They might not always be the best dunkers. But you can't even get a Jalen Duren in this damn thing. You can't even get average guys in this thing. Jalen Duren's not average, he's an all-star. I'm just talking about, like, I'm not saying it has to be Anthony Edwards. We're getting rookies and G League guys and guys from the street. I'm waiting for them to call, like, Hot Sauce and 50 and AO from the N1 mixtape squad and get those guys dusted off to go see if they can do some dunks. I know Hot Sauce is not a dunker, but you know what I'm saying. Get Half Man, Half Amazing. Can he jump still? Get Main Event. Can he jump still? Get the air up there. Can he jump still? That's pretty much where we're at this point. We might as well. If I gotta watch Jace Richardson shrug when his team posts a clip being like, hey, get excited, our rookie's in the slam dunk contest. He's like, I guess. He don't even care about it. These guys they just continue to want to skirt responsibility for things that matter to fans and matter to people. And they consistently want to push it off as either something that doesn't actually matter, or if it does matter, that it's actually someone else's fault as to why it's not as good as it used to be. I think that part of it, because I take pride in it as a black man, as a black basketball fan, as a black sports fan, and a black just fan of the culture. I'm not part of the culture, I'm a black person, but like, yeah, like seeing these amazing celebrities. And when I say black, like black Super Bowl, it does not even mean that everybody there's black. There's white celebrities, there's Latino celebrities. It's just a cool cultural event that happens every year. But to hold up your end of the bargain and make this thing still important for us, you got to go out there and just give 65% effort. I'm not asking you to play 100% like it's Game 7. They weren't playing like that when it was in the 70s and 80s and 90s. But guess what? I dare you to turn on a 1990s or 1980s NBA All-Star game and watch what happened last year and tell me that that's the same. Lie to me. It's not. It's not the same. So that is where my frustration comes in when we have these conversations. And I think that when we have commentary on this, and again, I'm not here to kill Kevin Durant. Because what I will say is, I've watched these games. There have been games where Durant has tried to pick it up a little bit. He's tried to maybe do a little bit, and nobody follows him. So if anybody wants to deliver this message, he's probably the only guy that has any clout to deliver this kind of message. So it's not really about him. I think he represents what a lot of NBA All-Stars think. So that's why I'm putting it on all of them. Stop skirting from the responsibility to actually care about this damn league and care about what matters to people who support you guys. And I don't even get into, we pay your checks and because they take that the wrong way. They take that something they don't understand. So I'm not even gonna get into that. But we just support you, damn it. We watch the games. We like watching you guys. We show up to the arenas. We buy your jerseys. Like, forget about even the money aspect of it. We just support you guys. No, we're asking you to do something simple. It's like, well, I don't know. Look at the European. Like, what? Okay, yeah, they suck. They suck too. Okay? Now, I don't think anyone will argue this. I don't think you'll find any person. Again, I'm just playing out this conversation. If I was talking to Kevin Durant, I'd be playing this out with him. Okay, fine. I'll sit here and say, which I've been saying all along. I don't feel like I was seeing a lot of American players when I made these comments. I guess maybe comparing it to the Four Nations, maybe that's where this comes in. But whatever. Okay, fine. Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic, you guys suck. You suck. You're ruining the All-Star game. And if you don't want to play this a real game, go the F home. So, all right, Durant, are you guys going to play hard now? LeBron James, are you guys going to play hard? Hell, I got New York Knicks in here. Jalen Brunson, Cat, are you guys going to play hard? We now said that the Europeans suck. Is that going to change anything? Or are you guys going to let those guys keep loafing? Or are you going to decide, I need another reason for why I can't give better effort? What, like, I'm tired of the talking. I'm tired of I'm going to talk my way out of doing something. I'm going to talk my way out of needing to be in a dunk contest. I'm going to talk my way out of needing to be in a All-Star game and give 50% effort. Like, I don't, like, it's not with the talking. How about just go out there and just perform? Just do what we love that you guys do. Like, people pay real money to go to this freaking All-Star game, and like my dream as a kid was to go to the All-Star game. And it's an exhibition. It's always been played like an exhibition. But you get cool alley-oops, you get fun highlights. Like, it's what Reggie Miller, who I know Knicks fans hate, but like, I think he describes it best. It's the greatest pickup game you could watch. And now imagine if you're doing that on the national stage this is going to be Intuit Dome, but if it's at Madison Square Garden or the Crypto.com Arena or wherever it is, and the lights and cameras, action, all the stars are there. They're participating in the events, and you can see all these fun moments. I'm sure Kevin Hart will be everywhere because that's what he does every time. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, it's just like sometimes these guys just like they treat it like the no fun league, and I'm like, I don't know. Why are you guys such curmudgeons? Like, why are you guys so not fun? Why? I asked you to do it. I asked you to play hard in an All-Star game. It's like, well, look at Jokic and Luka. I'm like, okay, they suck. Now what? Are we gonna have a good All-Star game now? Like, is that gonna change anything? Like, I don't know. It just reminds me of like being in school when it's like you get, and trust me, I'll be real. As a black kid who was in school, going to at times predominantly white schools, like, yeah, there's stuff that happens, and you're like, oh, it seems they want to come hard down on you. It's like, wait, what about Johnny? What about Timmy? What about them? Like, and yeah, what about them? It probably sucked, and they probably should be getting just as much punishment, if not worse, too. But it doesn't mean that you should keep moving how you're moving. It doesn't mean that you're just totally in the clear. It's like, oh, well, now they're being charged with the same thing, or they're going to be, get detention for the same thing I'm doing. But okay, so now what? You're going to keep getting detention, or you're gonna actually try to change your behavior? Like, you're just happy that now this guy is like, it's almost like Kevin Durant. And I know he doesn't sometimes love the relationship with the media. It just feels like, he's probably tired of answering these questions because he is someone that will put himself out there, whether it's social media or in the media, about this, when he's like, I'm actually kind of giving pretty good effort in these games, and these European guys, like, they suck, and like, I don't want to play against a guy that's like not running up and down the court. Again, all right, well, how about you elbow him and say, or hey, bro, if you're not gonna play, sit your ass down. Like, that's what they would have did in the 80s and 90s. I know y'all hate when people say that, but try to go out there in the game and give 25% effort with Michael Jordan out there and see how that goes. Y'all don't want that kind of smoke. Y'all are too corporate. Y'all are too, and I know David Dennis saying, they hate that stuff. I'm like, well, it's true. It's part of the problem. I'm not running and say, oh, they're lazy or they're any of that stuff. I just think sometimes, like, and this is the problem. I've said this a bunch when I do these shows. That the problem is when we focus so much on the most hyperbolic commentary on this, it's easy to say, okay, that hyperbolic comment that I'm a lazy dude and look at these hardworking NHL players, that is out of line, and that, there's racial things with that. It's like, yeah, there is. It's probably not great, but that's. And then they paint it as that's what everyone is saying in criticism of the All-Star game, or it paints all of criticism about the All-Star game when it's not about that. There are a lot of black folks who are like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? A lot of Latino folks are saying, what the hell is wrong with you guys? People don't even watch hockey who are like, I don't know, I've heard about how awesome this thing was. That seems great. I wish my league, the NBA, would have done that. I don't watch hockey like that. I've talked about that on the show. But I was like, damn, this I watched that last game between USA and Canada. I'm like, this I almost cursed. This is fire. This is a fun atmosphere. This is a great game. Why can't we have that? Again, like, what's the deal? Read, like, you got to read between my lines? I don't know, man. It's like, it's that funny quote, we're losing recipes. It's like, yo, like, you guys were the caretakers of the recipes, not Luka Doncic, not Nikola Jokic, and they came. It's like inviting them to the cookout, and they're putting damn raisins in all the potato salad, and they're telling everybody that we're doing vegan hot dogs, and like, they're ruining everything. And at any cookout that people did that at your crib, Kevin Durant, you would throw their ass out. You wouldn't allow it. You were like, what the hell? I invited you here, and you just gonna act like this is a joke when this is an important cultural thing for us? Get out. Why won't you do it with this? Why is this so hard? So I think it's a little bit of a cop-out. That's how I honestly feel, respectfully. I think Durant doesn't make terrible points, and I think there are points that are just true. But I think to point that out, man, I thought that was weak. I'd be curious what you guys think of this. If you have any thoughts on the All-Star game and Kevin Durant's commentary, I understood the sentiments, but to think that Luka Doncic and Nikola Jokic were the caretakers of what make All-Star Weekend important and what make it important, particularly to Kevin Durant's culture and my culture and our culture, that's silly to me. It's like accurate in the sense that yes, they have sucked, but they don't they don't determine whether or not this is important to us. We determine that. And we determined a long time ago that it didn't matter. By the way, just, because I'm a lunatic, I was like, let me do some research on this. I'm not going to just come in and just start talking out my ass. Kobe's final All-Star game was in 2016. Kevin Durant was in that game. And you guys honored his legacy by scoring 369 points combined. The Eastern Conference let the Western Conference score 196 points. In 2017, there was a combined 374 points scored in an All-Star game. Anthony Davis was the MVP. He was allowed to score 51 points. In 2017, Marc Gasol was the only European in the All-Star game. So in 2017, Marc Gasol was the only European player in the All-Star game. In 2016, Pau Gasol was the only European in the All-Star game. Were those guys the reason why in 2016, 2017, you guys gave no effort? And you guys took it as a joke? The late, great Kobe Bryant is sitting there in his last All-Star game. This is a guy that had a bloody nose and broken nose in an All-Star game from Dwayne Wade. That's how hard these guys played at one point in time. And you honored his legacy by going out there and basically farting up and down the court. Was that the Europeans' fault then too? Was that Nikola Jokic's fault? And Luka Doncic, who probably was 16 years old, whoever he was, 15 years old, was that his fault too? Will Chamberlain's record for the most points in a single All-Star game was 42 points. That was in 1962. I mentioned that Anthony Davis had 51 points. That record that Wilt had, the 42 points in a game, it stood for 55 years. That record has been broken 4 times in the past 9 years. The first one being, I think, in 2018 with Steph Curry. Again, at the end of the day, the truth is these players took cues from you guys when you guys were in your prime. When you guys were in your prime, and the Kobe's and the Vince Carters and the T-Macs and those guys in that era of the NBA, they handed it off to the Kevin Durants of the world and the LeBrons of the world. And all right, it's your show now. You guys are the center stage. Let's see what you got. You made the game a joke. The game became a joke on your watch. It wasn't on Nikola Jokic's watch. Nikola Jokic was somewhere eating fried chicken in Slovenia and racing horses. Luka Doncic may have been in elementary school. That's your watch, 2016, 2017, where you're giving up almost 200 points in an All-Star game. They're all taking the cues from you guys. If you don't believe me, why did the NBA have to change all the rules? After 2017, 2018, when they brought in the All-Star Game draft, they were like, man, this is lame, this is weak, we got to do something to jazz this up. All right, NBA All-Star draft, maybe that'll make these guys play harder. And for a little while, it did. And then it got stale. So they're like, all right, 2020, let's do something else. Let's introduce the Elam rule. And let's see if that jazzes up. Maybe it's not a clock at the end of the fourth quarter, so not running the clock out in the game. All right, and that jazzes up for like a year or two, and then you get back to your BS. Those guys, again, weren't in the NBA when those things were being introduced. Is it all their fault? So I just think that, again, it's one of those things that if you say it to the right person, it sounds like a good point, and because there are parts of it that are just true, but it just doesn't pass the smell test. And when you really hold it up to the light, you see that there's a lot of flaws with that commentary and that thought process. Respectfully to Kevin Durant, because he's entitled to his opinion, and I don't think that he's, again, just on some other planet on this. But I think he's missing a lot of key details as to why this is important and why those guys don't matter to this at the end of the day. I want to talk about Jaren Jackson real quick, man. So Jaren Jackson Jr., he's going to undergo season-ending surgery on his knee. This has become you would think, okay, who the hell cares about Jaren Jackson Jr. getting surgery on his knee? Well, for one, he's a former All-Star. He is a good player. He was traded to the Utah Jazz, a team that is not in playoff contention, but they like the addition of Jaren Jackson Jr. They hope that next year when they start 0-0, that him and Lauri Markkanen and whoever they were to bring in the offseason, they hope to re-sign Walker Kessler, that they could become a playoff contending team next year. But they can't save this season, and they know that. So they've been playing Jaren Jackson in these games, but what people have been watching is Jaren Jackson has been getting pulled out of games in the fourth quarter that they're leading and not coming back for a quote-unquote minutes restriction. Now, they still won those games, But nonetheless, it was like how like you're in a close game, you're winning. Jaren Jackson's playing great. He's gotten there and been an impact player for them. And you're pulling him out of the game in the fourth quarter. Like, this is crazy. This is obvious tanking. They're saying, oh, he's dealing with a medical issue, so that's why he needs to be on minutes restriction. Like, he wasn't on a minutes restriction in Memphis that I'm aware of. Now he shows up in Utah, he's on a minutes restriction. So he's getting the season-ending knee surgery. So it's okay, knee surgery, all right, that seems serious. Like, is it like a torn ligament? Does he have torn meniscus? They say he has a growth in his knee that they're admitting that he says is not causing him any pain. But they need to have surgery to end his season now because the growth can continue to grow and that it may be a more invasive surgery, I guess, if they wait after the season's over, which will be in only 2 months for the Jazz because they will be done as soon as the NBA playoffs start. They're not playing. Or you couldn't even wait a couple of months. Maybe the last few weeks of the season you shut them down. Like, this had to happen right now after you won 2 in a row. So it's led to conversations about, like, yo, what's going on here, man? This tanking is out of control. Completely out of control. The Jazz are literally trying to throw games in the middle of their NBA season. You got the Wizards who are trading for guys that are injured that can come back if they push it and should be willing to come back. In fact, Anthony Davis literally was, rage tweeting at Shams Charania, who was saying that his season could be over, saying, nope, it's not going to be over. I'm healthy. I want to play. And now he gets to Washington. They're like, yeah, no, we're going to shut him down. Trae Young was hurt, came back from his injury. He's like, yeah, no, actually, he's still hurt. So he can't play for the rest of the year. This guy got traded in January. And they're like, oh, yeah, he had a knee sprain from October that's still bothering him. Yeah, he can't go. He's done. Done. But they're trying to keep their pick. That's a top 8 protected pick that's going to be going to the New York Knicks if it falls out of the top 8. They don't want that to happen. Not in this draft. So they make these moves, they make these trades thinking, okay, we suck now, but it's okay. We can still keep our tank. In fact, this will help. We're going to trade, even though they didn't trade stars, but we're going to trade valuable guys that are at least getting minutes for us, to combine the salaries to get the likes of an Anthony Davis or a Trae Young or a Jaren Jackson, and then we're not going to play them. So we're just going to lose those guys. Those guys are gone. And the center of the pieces that we're getting back are these stars, and they're not going to play, which is automatically going to make us a worse team. Which is what we want, because we want to lose games, because we want to get a higher draft pick, because this is the lottery that you can't miss. Like I keep saying, best draft I've seen since 2003. And I talked about the story, I think it was last week, where Windhorst had reported that the NBA competition has definitely talked about the machinations these teams are putting together to continue their tank in more creative ways. And it's led to people thinking, what do you got to do about this? How do you fix this? This is out of control. It is. It's insane. Like, thank goodness I root for a good team. Because, like, if the Jazz win 10 games, I don't care. Like, if they play the Knicks and they want to tank, I'm like, all right, cool. I will have no problem watching them get destroyed by 50 points. I don't care. And I never have to watch Jazz or watch the Wizards or watch, any of these sorry teams. The Pacers or one of these teams as well. They went full out for the Knicks because that's a rivalry. And then the next night, all those guys that played, that were totally fine and healthy, played an overtime game. All of a sudden, oh yeah, Nembhard and Siakam and Nesmith, they were totally fine last night. They were covering Jalen Brunson full court. They were playing a war with the Knicks, a random war in the middle of, February. Okay, now they're hurt. They can't play against the Nets. Why? I don't know. They're hurt though. So this has become extreme. And I think anybody can deny that, because if you have to watch these teams, or if you're just a basketball fan, you want to just catch a good game. Like, there are nights where the Knicks aren't playing, and I'm trying to catch a good game. And it's tough, because there are just so many teams that are tanking. And if there's not 2 teams that are in a playoff positioning, you're going to see some nonsense out there. And then forget about that. You may see teams that are in a playoff positioning, like the Knicks and the Sixers yesterday. And Joel Embiid, he's legitimately a guy that probably should be playing a lot. But still, like, Joel Embiid can't play. You have a marquee game between LeBron James' Lakers and the Spurs with Wemby. LeBron doesn't play. Even the good teams are just throwing games, saying, hey, listen, we got to just throw this one game because we can't do this. We can't play these guys 82 games. So tanking is a major problem. But we're more focused on the bad teams because they're wilding right now. I feel like I have a solution to this. I think it's simple. Will it hurt parity? Maybe. I don't think parity is that real in the NBA. I know there is a salary cap, but I think that we kind of see that there are some teams that are kind of destined to just continue to be the worst teams, and some teams that are destined to be the best. And yes, getting the number one pick is what helps those teams get there. But if they're going to look at that as the only, because it's first of all, I'm being clear, I'm not an anti-tanking person. It is logical to tank. It's logical. It's logical in the NFL. It's even more logical in the NFL. It's logical in the NBA. That is the easiest way to go from being a bad team to a good team, especially if you're a team in a small market. It's very simple. You have a bad team. No good players want to go to you, so you're not going to be able to sign guys, most likely. And you're not going to be able to trade for guys because you don't have the assets a lot of times to get these guys. And all those guys won't stay long term, so you're trading for rentals if you're trading for stars. So I'm all for tanking because the best chance you have is to get high draft picks who are the best players in their draft, and they become superstars. The Timberwolves were a terrible team, and they tanked. They got Anthony Edwards, and now they're a very good team. The Spurs were a terrible team. They ended up eventually, after not tanking for years, they finally went into the tank, and they get Victor Wembanyama, and now they're a title contender. It's the proof is in the pudding. It makes sense why you would tank, even if it's not foolproof, because you can be like the Nets and never get a pick inside the top 2 or 3 in these last few years since you gave up your picks to the Boston Celtics that became Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Or if you're the Utah Jazz and you never finish within the top 4 of any lottery ever, it's not foolproof. Like, you just might not. Or if you're the Hawks and you win the lottery in a year, they weren't tanking, but you win the lottery in a year where the best pick is, the number 1 guy is Zachary Ricochet. It's just not a foolproof thing. So you're wasting at times 4 or 5 months of an NBA season for Yegor Demon of the Nets or Zachary Ricochet of the Hawks, and you're like, what was this for? I wasted all that season watching my team get curb stomped every night, and this is what we can come up with. So it has to be fixed because this is not good for the league overall. I think it's simple. I think you flatten the odds for the lottery. Simple. Flatten it. Every team that misses the playoffs, you all have the same chance. I have to do the math in terms of what that would mean. Actually, I can do that math here. Let's get a good old calculator. Again, this is what's great about doing live streams, is you can just do stuff like this. So let's see. There's 14 teams that missed the playoffs. So 100. Let's get that. 100%. Oops, let me cancel some time. Here we go. Take 3. 100 divided by 14. Oh, that's not the right number. One more time. 100 divided by 14 equals 7%. You give everybody a 7% shot. Will there be teams that are like near the fringe of the lottery that may say, I'd rather just take my 7% chance at the number 1 pick than go to the playoffs? Probably. But I think those teams I'm not as worried about, because they're not really the issue. There are like small issues like the Mavericks when they tried to keep a pick from the Knicks. They tanked a couple of games at the end of the season. That was a Knick issue and a personal issue, but in terms of the NBA overall, I don't think it was a huge deal. When you have teams that are in February, in January, throwing games, that's a bigger issue because that's going to happen now for months. That's months where your product is being is becoming lackluster. I say you flatten all the odds. I'll give everybody a 7% shot. I think 7% is like, who knows what the hell is going to happen there. But what that takes away is you no longer have this like race to the bottom where these teams are like, they tried to flatten it more where like, okay, it was a little more even. And it's worked in that regard because we've seen the Hawks get a pick when they shouldn't have in terms of like where they were. The Mavericks were the 10th team and they got all the way to number 1. When the Pelicans got Zion, they were like a team that barely missed the playoffs and they got number 1. So this has worked. Flattening the odds have 100% worked in terms of getting us different teams and making it random, but these teams don't care. They'd still rather take better odds, even if the odds aren't as good as they used to be, in order to ensure that they have a shot to get the number 1 pick or get a high pick. So I would just flatten it. I would flatten it, and I wouldn't make it where we're just flattening it to where teams get the number 1 pick. No. Every pick in the lottery is a lottery, not for the top 4, for all 14. So it's not like, oh, if you're a bottom 1 team, you're guaranteed a bottom 4 pick. No, you're not. You could be 14. You could be 12. You could be 11. There's no incentive at all to be the worst team or be terrible or be as bad as you can be. There's none. Maybe the incentive is not make the playoffs, but I feel like I can work around that. I can find a 1.A strategy to say, okay, how do I then like amend this thing to maybe fix that aspect of it? But in terms of this is easy. I just flatten the odds. And now the Utah Jazz, they're not gonna make the playoffs. So sitting Jaren Jackson wouldn't matter because it's like you're not gonna make the playoffs anyway. So yeah, play him. You're gonna win some games. You're gonna lose some games, but you're gonna be competitive, and then that'll be that, and then that'll be fine. And if that doesn't work, then you get more radical and you just put every team in the lottery. That would, you want to talk about really flattening odds? You will not have tanking if you just put every team in the lottery, all 30 teams. You could argue, well, now it becomes a deal where it's, now like the Thunder can #1 pick. Yep, they can. So you know what? Get to step in terms of building your team and not relying on a lottery ticket literally to change your team. Step your game up. Floyd Mayweather said famously on Jim Rome show. Step your game up. Yeah, the Knicks may get the #1 pick in the draft. Step your game up. You're not going to be able to sit here and lose for 6 years in a row, hoping that 1 year the lottery ping pong balls go your way, and that year there happens to be a star player there, and not Zachary Ricochet, and therefore you can build your team the right way to try to win champion. That's not the way it's going to work anymore. Sorry. If you do that, you won't have tanking anymore because there will be no incentive to tank. I would start with all teams that don't make the playoffs, just flatten it completely, and then make every pick a lottery pick, not like just top 4, and then you just slot everybody with worst record. No, we're done with that. Worst record does not matter. It's just you missed the playoffs. Okay, now you're in the lottery. We'll see what happens, and pick up the teams like real ping pong balls. Just put 14 teams in there. Just drop the ping pong balls, put their logo on there like they used to do back in the day, where they didn't put them in there, but they would show the ping pong ball for the team that had the name, even though they did the combination of numbers. That's how it works. It's a combination of numbers that you can get to get in the top 4. F that. Make it simple, man. Just put 14 ping pong balls, put their logos on there, and just let that thing go. And we're gonna go from pick 14 to 1. That's how I would do it. And I think again, you would not have issues with tanking. I'm curious if that's something that you guys think would work or would make sense, but I don't think that this thing is that hard to solve. Will it upend the NBA in terms of how you build teams and parity? Yes, it will. I think that is totally worth it for the nonsense that we're dealing with what the Jazz and the Wizards are doing. This is freaking ridiculous. All right, let's get to some comic book stuff real quick. I want to talk about the trailer we saw today. The trailer that was unveiled for what I think is going to be a really cool show. So Prime unveiled Spider-Noir, which is a new show that's going to be debuting on May 27th. This is going to be starring Nicolas Cage. He played the role of Spider-Man Noir in the 2 Into the Spider-Verse movies, where he was the black and white Peter Parker, crime-fighting, private detective, private investigator Spider-Man. He was a great character in the movie. Both movies, he stole scenes with just how funny his character was. And the Spider-Verse is probably one of the best things that has happened to, in many ways, happened to the Spider-Man character and the Spider-Man lore, just because it's given us so many different variety and variations of characters that we really love. So we've gotten to see, Spider-Gwen. We've gotten to see multiple different Spider-Men become really cool elements to the show and to the Marvel universe. And now, because of the popularity of that show, that movie rather, now they're making a show that's going to be in live action. So that, of course, was an animated movie. Now you're going to have a movie that's going to be in live action, or a show that's going to be in live action with him playing the roles. I want to show you guys some pictures. Obviously, I don't want to play the trailer because I don't want to get copyright strike. But here's some pictures from it. So there you got a shot of Spider-Man Noir there. This is going to be Ben Reilly. So obviously he played Peter Parker in the last one. This is not going to be Peter Parker. This is going to be Ben Reilly for this one. Here's another picture. What's really cool about the show as well is you're going to be seeing, and I'll put this down so you don't have this distracting. So what's going to be cool about the show as well is this is going to be also a show where you could watch two ways. You can watch in the what they call in the natural hue and color, or you can watch in the classic noir black and white. The trailer I watched was in black and white. I don't know if there's another trailer that's not in black and white, but I watched one that was in black and white. And the trailer I thought was really good. Definitely got the noir feel. Definitely, if you're a fan of what they brought to the table with that character in the movie, I think you're gonna love this. Just some quick details about it. So the showrunners for this are gonna be Oren Uziel, best known for co-writing 22 Jump Street, which is a Maggie Perloff show favorite. Sonic the Hedgehog and The Lost City, which stars Sandra Bullock and why am I forgetting his name? The guy that was in 22 Jump Street, whose name is escaping me right now. And Steve Lightfoot, who was the showrunner for Hannibal and The Punisher. So Hannibal was really highly acclaimed, and obviously I'm a big fan of The Punisher show that was on Netflix. So I'm all for Punisher being a part of this. Let's see what else we got here. Some more pictures I can show. Here is another picture. That's Ben Reilly outside of his window looking out. Again, the noir pictures are pretty neat. This is was a really good trailer, I thought. Let's show some more here. If I can. Let's see. Should have brought these in before, but here's another shot. Definitely got a little Batman, the anime series vibes here from this photo, which is really cool. Here's a couple more that I'll show you before we continue on some thoughts on this show. And I'll give you some of the other casting details of this. But the trailer's out now. If you want to after the show, be sure to check it out. It's good. It's fun. I really like the trailer. So you're seeing some of the other actors here, and I'll get to who they are in a second. But the show comes out May 27th. This is, from what I understand, it's kind of in its own world. We're not talking about a show that's going to be a show where it's connected to the Spider-Verse movie or the live-action Tom Holland or Venom. At least that's not my understanding of it. I'm not 100% sure, but that's not what's been said. But recently, Nicolas Cage did a interview with Esquire where he was asked about kind of like what was his inspiration for this role. And he said, think about Humphrey Bogart meets Bugs Bunny. And, you know, obviously my mom watches old movies a ton, so I've seen Humphrey Bogart, but I had to kind of freshen up on like who he was. So I actually went on YouTube and started watching the Humphrey Bogart clips. And he does like play like a Humphrey Bogart type role in this Ben Reilly role. Ben Reilly, obviously, in the comics, he's a clone of Spider-Man. I don't know how they're gonna play this in this world, like why he's not Peter Parker and why he's Ben Reilly. Is he a clone? Is it just a world where Peter Parker doesn't exist, and the Spider-Man in this world is Ben Reilly? Like, who knows? But he is playing Ben Reilly. I mentioned that this is Humphrey Bogart meets Bugs Bunny. And I mentioned the showrunner. So the other cast members, which you saw. So Lamorne Morris, who of course was in New Girl, he's going to be playing Robbie Robertson. Robbie Robertson, who in the comics for the modern day Spider-Man is known as the reliable friend of Peter Parker and Daily Bugle reporter or editor. He has various different roles in Daily Bugle during his time in the comics and all other media. He's playing Robbie Robertson. Lee Jun Lee is playing Kat Hardy, which obviously I think is a play to Felicia Hardy. Jack Houston's going to be playing Flint Marko. Of course, that's Sandman. And you have Brandon Gleeson playing Silvermane. I dug this, man. Again, I dug the style. I dug the shift in flair, and I'm excited for this. I didn't know what to expect when they did this. I think my only critique that I'll put out there, not necessarily of the project. The project looks really cool. It's just the timing of it. And this is a problem that Marvel has had for years now, where they're a little too reactionary. And this isn't a Marvel Studios project. This is a Sony produced project. So to be clear, this is not Kevin Feige and Disney. This is Sony, and I think Amy Pascal is still there. Apologies if she's not, but that team is doing this show, and they've sold it to Prime Video. When Into the Spider-Verse came out, it was very clear that like Nicolas Cage was a star. It was like, well, he's a star obviously, but I mean, star in that movie. I mean, of course he's an icon. But it was like, oh my God, that Spider-Man Noir character he added a lot of flair, a lot of different feel to the movie. He was awesome. It was a lot of people's favorite parts of the movie. So it made sense to say, hey, let's capitalize on this. And let's decide, hey, we're gonna try to make a movie about this guy. It made a lot of sense. The problem with that though is when you say, okay, let's try to make this into live action. How do you get there? How long is it gonna take? How aggressive are you to be active in making that come to life. It takes time to make shows. Takes time to make movies. And I sit here now. Everybody who's watched this seems to have liked this trailer. But will people have the awareness and understanding about what is happening with this character and what the inspiration is based on that movie? Will they even remember Into the Spider-Verse because of just how many years it's been since even the second movie came out? And there's so many delays. I don't know if you're really hitting when the iron's hot. That's the problem with Hollywood sometimes. They're so reactionary that's like, oh, this is hot. Let's scramble together something and put it on the big screen and let's capitalize on this. But now we're many years removed from his last appearance as Spider-Man Noir. We're very removed from his first appearance as Spider-Man Noir, which is when he first burst onto the scene. Like, what was Spider-Verse? Like 2019, I think? It's 2026. And we're just finally seeing Nicolas Cage as a live-action version of Spider-Man. And 2018, I mean, even later. Like, and that's not... I'm not even criticizing them. It takes a long time to make a show. It takes a long time to do this kind of thing. But when you move in this direction, when you move in this way, it makes it impossible to strike when the iron's hot. It reminds me very much of what happened with Agatha all along, which, by the way, I still haven't finished. But there was all this talk about how great, Catherine Hahn was as Agatha Harkness and how she stole the show in WandaVision. Now, to be clear, there was some strikes, there was some COVID, there was a lot of stuff going on. So this is a little different, but still, like, so you say, okay, let's do a show, let's just put a show together and let's put Agatha Harkness in. But for Marvel, when you're building a universe, you're putting all this together, and then you decide, all right, let's do a show, and it's 5 years later, and now we've seen so much other Marvel content, and then for Marvel's sake, they actually were struggling with their content. Now, when you finally get, all right, here's your Agatha Harkness show, it's like, the moment is past. Do I really need to see this right now? Like, maybe if this happened a year after WandaVision, you say, okay, a year after we already got this thing in the tuck, we were waiting to put it out, and now it's out. That's one thing. Go 4 or 5 years later from when I was interested in Agatha Harkness. Now I'm just pissed off at all the terrible movies and shows you put out since. And that's not necessarily me talking. That's just fans talking. You're not going to get that kind of vibe. And then the interest in Agatha Harkness and the show that they put Agatha all along, it just doesn't hit the way it should. Even though the show by most accounts was pretty good, and I watched the first few episodes and I liked the first few episodes, but you lose the sauce when you wait so long. So that's my only thing about Spider-Noir. I will talk about it a ton, and when we do Hero Talk, we'll probably preview it. Hopefully, we'll be able to record one this week and we can get back going on that. I know 40 Days and 40 Nights have made it a little tricky because of the nature of the beast, and I've been also doing shows on the fan on the weekend, but I'm excited for the show. How they described it, how Nicolas Cage has talked about it. He is taking, he's an actor, so he's got to pitch this stuff, and he's a pro at that. But it feels like he is taking this extremely seriously, and the action in this looks good. Story looks fun, and just they definitely dipped into the noir feel for this. So I'm a fan. I'm a fan of this. I hope this ends up going well. We'll see what ends up happening, but that show is going to be debuting on May 27th. Trailer is out right now. Let's get to also some other Spider-Man news that I saw. So this was a rumor. I gotta play you some sound because no one knows what's gonna happen in this Spider-Man Brand New Day movie. This is the 4th installation of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies that first started with Homecoming and now is in Brand New Day. And that is it. I'm tripping. I'm like, is it called Brand New Day? I'm pretty sure it's called Brand New Day. But no, it's the next movie here. And yeah, it's called Brand New Day. I don't know why I was like tripping. I was like, I want to make sure I got that title right. There's so many titles are so like, cause they're so similar. I'm like, I get scared if I said it Brave New World earlier and it was close to that. But no, Brand New Day's coming out and no one knows what's happening in this movie. We know Spider-Man's in it. I don't think it's actually been officially announced, but we do know that Punisher's in it, and we know Hulk's in it, and we know Sadie Sink is playing a female character. I can't even say redhead because I didn't see the leaked trailer to see if she indeed has red hair, but she's playing a character in this movie rather, that we were told could be Jean Grey, but also could be Gwen Stacy or could be Mary Jane Watson. We're not 100% sure. And the plot details have been kept very close to the vest. It's very weird considering it is February 12th. This movie comes out, I want to say, in It's July 31st. So we're not that far away. Only 5 months, and we know nothing about this. Nothing official. And we're getting some details. There are rumors, but there are people in Hollywood who do have sources, and they're able to talk to people. Shout out to John Campy from Jay Campy, a YouTube channel. He has some commentary about what he is hearing about what you will see in the next Spider-Man movie.
What I had heard a couple of months ago, and again, this does not come from an official studio source, okay? So this could be real, might not be real. What I heard a number of months ago was that Peter's genetics themselves were kind of altered, obviously, when he got bit by the spider, because he's got the powers of the spider. In the vein of Jeff Goldblum in The Fly, we're going to see Peter mutate into a spider being. Like literally mutating into a spider. Kind of like, again, The Fly.
Okay, interesting. Seems like that would be kind of going down the line of a man-spider type story that is not unfamiliar to the Spider-Man lore. Here's more on John Campia saying the movie plot will be about helping Peter not mutate into a spider.
One of the main things of this movie is them trying to race against the idea of how to prevent Peter from, mutating totally.
I don't love this. I'm just going to be real. I don't love this. And one of his, forgive me, I don't remember his co-host's name, or one of the people that were there, maybe it's producer, but somebody was like, oh, they done this in like the comics and they also did it in the cartoon, right? And I was like, I remember the cartoon. Yeah, didn't they do this in the cartoon? And I remember that being one of the worst storylines from like the early run of the Spider-Man animated series from the 90s show on Fox. But you know what? I do my homework. And I got Disney Plus subscription. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go watch those episodes to see if it is as I remember. And that is the Morbius. If you remember the Morbius arc of that show, that is the Morbius arc that while Morbius is transforming, Spider-Man is also transforming. And I watched it again, and it is not great. It's not great. I was like, I remember as a kid when I watched this, and I've also rewatched the show 100 times. These are all the episodes that kind of were a drag. Punisher's in them, which now this makes a lot of sense where the inspiration came from. Punisher was in these episodes. That makes sense why Punisher is in this one, because that's the inspiration right there. If John Campy is right, and his sources are correct, then the inspiration is go watch Spider-Man Season 2. I forgot what the episode numbers were, but they're I think around 6 or 7, maybe even a little earlier. It's literally right after the X-Men episodes. There's a 2-parter where Spider-Man crosses over with the X-Men. It's a super fun crossover. Right after that, it's continuing this issue where he's mutating, he's losing his powers, and he doesn't know why. And the doctor is like, well, your cells are mutating, and the storyline goes essentially, I can tell you this because this is an old show. This isn't spoilers. And the storyline goes essentially like, your cells are mutating. And he's like, well, you got to help me, doc, fix it. So the doctor comes up with a serum she thinks, maybe reverse the mutation that's happening that's allowing him to lose his powers. But let me flip that. He's like, you got to figure this out. He's like, well, here's a serum. And if you take it, you'll just be done with spider powers. You won't have to worry about this being an issue moving forward. And he's going back and forth about whether or not he should take it. Should he quit as Spider-Man? Should he continue forward? But his powers are on the fritz, so what do you do? So eventually he decides to take it. It's after, I think, seeing Morbius start to wall out. He's like, I don't want this to happen to me, so I'm going to take this joint. He takes the serum, and the serum ends up accelerating his mutation, not taking away his mutation completely. So now he grows 8 arms, or 6 arms, and then the 2 legs that he already has. So now he has 6 arms plus the 2 legs he has to be an 8-armed figure. Initially, he's just like a regular, he's Peter Parker, but he has 8 arms. And then as the episodes continue, he looks like a spider. He becomes like a man spider. This all sounds ridiculous because it is ridiculous. Like watching him like this is not great. It's an awesome show. It's a fun show, so I always will have nostalgia for it. But I'm like, this is not a good arc. This is not. Morbius was always not the greatest part of the show anyway, and this is his intro to it. Spider-Man is turning into a man spider. Honestly, Punisher is the best part. Like, Punisher being involved in this is pretty cool. But besides that, it's a lot of stuff. Blade shows up near the end. It feels like they really tried to save this with like cameos, but the story itself was not great. And it was sucked because I think the existential question of like Spider-Man, whether or not he should be Spider-Man anymore, is always fun. It always works. It's a good story. But that's why Spider-Man 2 did it. That's why this show did it. Every show does it. Every comic book does it. But this was not great. So if that's the inspiration for Brand New Day, that concerns me. Like, okay, I'm going to see Tom Holland turn into a spider. I'm sorry, I'm not interested. And I'm not trying to be a hater, man. I swear I'm not. But I'm like, I'm not interested in seeing that. I thought that's a big no for me, dog. So I hear this and I'm like, not feeling it. That's kind of how I feel about it. Maybe listen, doesn't mean just because the 90s cartoon did a bad job doesn't mean that they can't do good. But to be honest, I also feel like I don't know if like Spider-Man fans love like the man-spider elements they've done in the comics. I don't think anyone's ever loved that when they've gone down that path. Anytime Spider-Man has like delved into any storylines of him becoming more like a spider, it's never something that people like. Like in this movie, the rumor has been there's plenty of smoke around this rumor that the webs will start to come out of his hands as opposed to needing web shooters, which is the one thing we hated in the Tobey Maguire movies, and now we're gonna bring that to these movies. One of the things we liked about this movie and the Amazing Spider-Man movies was that he was back to using web shooters because we like that he had to have the brains to make web shooters to show how smart he is and to show just like again that he's not just Spider-Man, he's essentially a scientist. Now we've established that with this Tom Holland, he's able to make these web shooters, but then like his suit is made kind of by Tony Stark. Like there's elements to that. I'm like I don't love any of this. I don't love the direction of any of this, to be honest. And I'm a big Tom Holland Spider-Man fan. I've loved the 3 movies that they've done. Hearing this, I'm like, John Campea, I'm not rooting for you to be wrong on this report, but I'm really kind of rooting for these rumors to be untrue. Like I'm sorry, I do not want to see this version of this story you're telling me. So other elements of this that are important to note. He also is hearing from sources who Sadie Sink is and hearing who he said you could expect the former Stranger Things star to play in this movie.
Now, this is not going to come as a surprise to anybody, but also talking about gene mutation, the general consensus out there right now is that the discussion is over. Sadie Sink is indeed Jean Grey.
Now, that part of it this is adding up. Again, I'm watching this cartoon. What happens prior to this whole man-spider situation? Spider-Man's hanging out with the X-Men. He actually goes to Charles Xavier because he's like, I don't know anything about mutations, but I know there are mutants that live in Westchester. So he pulls up to the X-Men and be like, yo, can you guys help me with this? And Charles is like, first of all, you're not a mutant. Second of all, like, we don't cure mutants. That's not what we do. We embrace who we are. He's like, well, you guys are no use. So it doesn't really work out that well. But they end up having to fight like the Sentinels, and they end up teaming up, and it ends up being a very good, fun episode, 2-parter. But I'm like, oh, this is totally inspired by this cartoon. Like that's where this is coming from. You took the fact that there's a mutation happening, and okay, that's Spider-Man related, and that happened in the cartoon. Oh, and that's stemming from a problem with mutation. That's how you're bringing mutants into the conversation. And that's why Jean Grey is in this movie. Okay, that's another reason why this makes sense. So here you're saying that this is where now, obviously in that show, they're already, sorry for my dog barking, I don't know what's going on out there. But I know previously you had a situation where, yes, your what's it called? Like the mutants already existed, obviously, in Spider-Man the animated series. Here, they're introducing them in a way. So you have him having a mutation. We know there are already 2 mutants that have been revealed. You have Namor, or Namor, as we say, and then you have Kamala Khan and Miss Marvel. Those are 2 mutants in this universe. Jean Grey would then be the 3rd, and this is where Tremel Tillman, who's been rumored to be cast in this movie, his role in this movie is going to be very important when it comes to the mutant aspect.
The word going around is that he is the head.
Tremel Tillman,
that's what it is. That he is the head of the Department of Damage Control, which we just saw in Wonder Man. And that this is going to kind of be the setting up of the anti-mutant thing, because Jean Grey is kind of being hunted because she's a mutant. And again, of course, that'll go back
and
more.
Pre-Xavier School.
And a pre-Xavier School of the Gifted, of young gifted students. So,
Okay, this part of it I do like. I like the idea of introducing damage control, which if you haven't watched Wonder Man, go watch Wonder Man. It's awesome. It's awesome. I know I didn't get, I think, officially do an official review of it on a 40 Days and 40 Nights, but it's awesome. Go check it out. It's a lot of fun. It's just a well-told story. The performances are amazing. It's well-written. It's just great. Damage control plays a big part of it. It's essentially a government agency that is overseeing superpowered beings and trying to keep them in check because they don't want these people, because they're dangerous, right? I love the idea of using damage control to be the people that are trying to find what they are determining, what they're going to learn to be our mutants in the world. And I love what damage control could become. Because you'll have this Tremel Tillman character come in, and he's going to be playing like someone who's known in the comics as being like an anti-mutant guy. But damage control could become another name of our department. It could become what the Sentinel program becomes, right? Like, this is the beginnings of that in many ways. I like that aspect of it, because if you watch this show, Wonder Man, and you watch damage control, like, it does feel very much like, government agency trying to capture mutants. Like, that is the vibe you get. And in many ways, some of the storyline, not to spoil too much, some of the storyline things about damage control and like their standing when it comes to finances and support, I could see how entering in the mutants and this being an opportunity for them is also kind of good gameplay. So that part of this, I like. I'm not sure if all this needs to be in a Spider-Man movie, but sure, I'm still here for it. I'm game. So I like the mutant Jean Grey stuff part of this. I've been saying forever, like, I need Sadie Sink to be Jean Grey. I do not need a Spider-Gwen. We have an MJ, so Mary Jane Watson doesn't really do much for me. We had someone who's been playing the MJ role, so what difference does it make? You're going to have another MJ? That seems weird. This is the only role I've been invested in terms of who Sadie Sink can be, and this is what I want to see. So I'm excited about this. Not excited about the Man Spider thing. That part of it kind of seems to suck. I'm not sure why they're doing that, but I am excited about the Jean Grey element and the fact that damage control is going to use this kind of like the initial agency of anti-mutant sentiments, anti-mutant practices. I think that is a really good move. It also speaks to what is an interesting strategy, which is like, this is now going to be an introduction to the mutants where they're slowly being discovered. I don't know what's going to happen after Secret Wars, but it's not going to be a deal where it's like, we enter Secret Wars and here's like an established X-Men team. Like, that's clearly not going to happen. Like, we're slowly being introduced to the first mutants we have in the MCU, and it seems like this is going to be a trickle and trickle and trickle. Secret Wars will happen, and maybe there's an explosion where there's so many of these people now. But I think we're going to be starting from ground zero when it comes to building the X-Men, where the first movie becomes essentially like a first-class movie, but this time they'll do it right. They'll have Jean, they'll have Cyclops. And I don't know if they'll have Kamala Khan or anybody like that, but I think that is clearly where this is going with this. Last thing before I get out of here, man. I'm a big fan of Daredevil Born Again show on Disney+. And I think we got some good news in terms of the rumor that we also saw. This one from Daniel RPK. That the show that's going to be debuting in March, that's next month, season 2 of this show, which season 1 was a little disjointed because there were 2 different show creators and they had 2 different visions, so they had to kind of like stitch it together, but it still ended up being a really good series. This year, it's one vision, more in line with the Netflix show. The Netflix show is iconic and one of the greatest superhero media creations of all time. You're going to continue that vision and continue moving forward with that show being entirely canon to what happens in this new Disney Plus show. And the Netflix characters that we know are going to be a part of season 2, one of them being Jessica Jones. Apparently they're not stopping there. Jessica Jones, played by Kristen Ritter, is going to be in season 2. According to Daniel RPK, season 3 will introduce, in his words, more Netflix era characters from the first series. The one character he's willing to name that he says is that Rosario Dawson, who played Claire Temple, she, who was like the nurse who helped support Matt and support all the characters throughout the episodes, Luke Cage and Iron Fist. She is in talks to potentially come back to do this show. And obviously this opens up the floodgates. If we bring Claire back, could Mike Colter come back as Luke Cage? Could Finn Jones come back as Iron Fist? the one I keep bringing up, and I'm going to keep bringing up because I thought that she was one of the best castings of all the casting in the Netflix world, and they had a lot of great ones. I really thought Elodie Young as Elektra was a phenomenal casting. Does she come back? And that would be a great addition to the MCU into this Daredevil show. This is phenomenal news. I'm really happy, and this shows at times, as they say, bullying works. Where the fans, be and moan and they complain, they tell you about all the things that they need to do and how Marvel's doing things wrong, and then they say, all right, no, we'll just give you what you want, and then what you want ends up being better. The vision of the show that they were doing was good, and they were doing fun stuff, and it seemed like they were building a good show. But it's very clear that the direction that the show has gone since going back into embracing what it was at Netflix, clearly the direction was better in the latter part of this past season, and I'm really excited for season 2. And I really hope that they do bring everybody back. And I'm all for everybody. I know some people are like, oh, do you bring back Finn Jones? Finn Jones was the weakest link of all the castings of the heroes in the Netflix world. I say give him Marvel Studios attention, Marvel Studios money, and maybe a little, battery pack in the back, because he's heard for all these years how much of a bum he was playing Danny Rand. I want to give him another shot. I want to give him another shot. I know he's basically said, hey, man, give me another shot. I know a lot of things didn't work out, and it wasn't as good as you thought I could be, but I can do this. I want to give him another shot. I know some people say, hey, just recast Finn Jones. I'm like, I think what has made this show so good is that they brought back the old Vanessa, that they're bringing back, Kristen Ritter to be Jessica Jones. The fact that we're continuing that Netflix world, I think that's what makes this show fun. It was made this show so great. The fact that William Bethel has been Bullseye, he's been awesome coming back as Bullseye, another amazing casting. I don't want to screw up with this at all. I don't want to say we're going to cast everybody else and that one guy is going to be different, but he's the same character from before. Just bring everybody back. Hopefully with better writing, better people working on this thing, that this will not be what the disaster to Iron Fist was. I say bring everybody back. And I think that's what's going to happen. My question is, are we going to have to wait till season 3 to see Luke Cage and Iron Fist, or could they show up this season? Because the way this last season set up, he's going to have Jessica Jones' help, but given how Wilson Fisk is wilding, it feels like he's going to probably need more than just Jessica Jones. I would hope that eventually you say, hey, I should probably make a call to Luke Cage or make a call to Iron Fist to help out here. So I'm all for this, man. I'm really excited about season 3 of Daredevil, season 2 coming up in just a month. And this is a good year for Marvel. This is a big year. Daredevil, X-Men 97, Spider-Man, Brand New Day, and Doomsday at the end of the year. We've said all these years, this is the year Marvel's going to show that they're back. This is the year. And we've done it for I don't know how many years in a row, and they haven't been able to establish that. You start with Wonder Man, how that started. And now you got Daredevil coming up. Wonder Man was kind of a surprise. I'm starting to wonder if this is the year. I'm starting to get a little bit of hope. Hope could be a dangerous thing. That's going to do it for now, man. I want to thank you guys so much for checking out 40 Days and 40 Nights. This was a fun one. Again, I really appreciate... Oop, I hit the wrong thing there. I appreciate you guys' support, man. You guys are the best. Shout out to the people that have been in the chat. I'll see if I can get one more comment up here before I get out of here. Bob Custer, he posted this a while ago, so if you're not here again, apologies. Hopefully you're still rocking with me. Bob Custer said, Max Cosby seems to have tons of loyalty. I mentioned before about athletes not, being loyal. I played the James Harden sound, being like loyalty is useless, considering you can be traded at any moment. And we're making all this money, so who really cares? He said, Max Crosby seems to have tons of loyalty to a bad Raiders team, but this season, maybe his make or break deal. Yes. And I said yesterday, or Monday, whenever Clint got, yesterday when Clint got, no, it was Tuesday. These days meld together. Whenever Clint Kubiak got introduced, I talked about it. And I talked about how the decision with Max Crosby is going to be important. And Clint Kubiak kind of played it close to the vest, but eventually he said that Crosby is the guy he wants to build this thing with. And if he's being truthful, I think that is the role I would go with too. I think, could you get a lot for him in a trade? Definitely. Did he show some frustration with how the Raiders decided to tank last year? He definitely did. But he does love to be a Raider. I think he loves Las Vegas. And I think he loves being in that next line of the great Raiders who represented the silver and black and represented the commitment to excellence. I think he lives it. He breathes it. But the Raider way is not for everybody. So to think that you're going to be able to define another Max Crosby is not simple. They're kind of like the Knicks. It's different for different reasons, but just think anybody can play for the Knicks, and what that embodies is different. So you find a guy like that, you don't want to just give him away, even if he's in the prime of his career and you seem to be still in rebuild mode. I think that Clint Kubiak's going to need allies in the locker room. I think that Max Crosby's proven to be a great leader. So even if it means you waste 1 year of his prime to kind of set the tone for what you want the Raider way to be now in this new era with Fernando Mendoza and Clint Kubiak, I think he's worth it. So I think I would keep him. Will Max Crosby continue to keep losing nonstop? I don't know if it's make or break for him. Like, now that I think about it, like, because now he sees they have Fernando Mendoza. And, okay, let's say they win 6 games next year. They're 6-11. But Mendoza looks good. Like, he looks like he's a franchise quarterback. They just have a lot of other issues. I don't know if Crosby's, like, cutting and leaving. I think he says, all right, I got a franchise quarterback here. It may take a year or two. But I still got some left in the tank. By the time he's ready to become a superstar, I'll have a good year or two to maybe try to push this thing and try to win a title. And it will be valuable to him. I mentioned earlier that thing about the value of staying with one team and having that place be able to always bring you back, and you always never have to buy a drink in Vegas, and the business interest that you'll have by having that kind of good rapport and goodwill built up that Max Crosby's built with the Raider organization and with Las Vegas. I don't think they're going to want to throw that away necessarily. And that's why he's still there. He could have went years ago. This year, I think, he was close when he was like, this sucks. I'm going to embarrass this organization because of how idiotic it is that they're tanking. Now, they were right to tank. He didn't see the forest of the trees. He's a warrior. He wants to go out there and play. So I get it, Max. But they were right to tank. They were right to sit his ass down. No question. So I don't know if he wants to keep being the worst team in the NFL. I don't know if he wants to keep being on a team that looks like they have absolutely no hope. But if Kubiak and Mendoza have the impact I expect them to have, I think that they'll be okay. And I think he'll say, you know what, I'll stick around here for a little longer, see how this goes. T3ND says, great show, thumbs up. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for rocking with me. This is a long one, and another episode went beyond 2 hours. When I did this show, I was like, oh, probably an hour and a half. When I started doing 40 days and 40 nights, slowly but surely, this is becoming a 2-hour deal. Hope you guys are enjoying the content. Hope you guys are enjoying this journey, man. We're wrapping up now, week number 5 of only 8 weeks. So after this week, we only have 3 weeks left. Again, let me know what host you want, what guests you want. I've seen people, T3 and D talked about Shep, talked about Scotty Farrell. I know Shep well. I have his number. And again, I've already talked to him about it. So again, just bug him. Tell him, hey, you got to get on 40 days and 40 nights. We want to say what's up. And hit up Scotty Farrell. I don't have his number, but I'm sure if you hit him enough and say, hey, you should go on 40 days and 40 nights, he knows who I am now because we've met. Maybe he'll come on the show. I'd love to get Scotty's thoughts on a lot of different things, including some Miami Hurricanes talk. Are we going to win it this year? Now we got Darren. Then we got Mensa. I'm curious to get his thoughts on that. But that's going to do it, man, for 40 days, 40 nights. This was a great episode. Fun to have you guys with me. Shout out to Andrew Rose from earlier in the day who joined and was awesome talking Giants, talking Mets and stuff. Again, that episode you can catch wherever you get your podcast. This episode also you can catch wherever you get your podcast. Just search New Generation Podcast Network. Make sure you follow me on X, EJ_Stewart. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and TikTok, ActionEJ. And make sure you subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media on YouTube. If you can give us a like on this video and comment on the video, that'd be great. If you can also give us a 5-star review on the podcast for New Generation Podcast Network, that also would be super important and super helpful for us. Thank you guys again. I'll see you Friday for night 25 and day 25 at 8 a.m. Peace out, y'all.